Every demon tower has 99 floors, so why this has only 5 floors? To stay hidden instead of being found. Towers are supposed to be a site of strength in the middle of cities so people try to climb it, but this one is in the middle of an ice mountain just so no one can reach it. Others towers have goblins and weak monsters in the first floors, but this one is completely full of cannons, bazookas, and guns, just so no one can level up by farming easy mobs. The second and third floors are empty for the same reason. Demon kings kill and kidnap the strongest and most famous princess and people of the world, but this time this guy kidnapped the most unknown random princess in the whole continent, from a country that would have to travel half the world just to think about saving her, and also that will not have many resources. And now on the 4th floor, the princess he kidnapped will be used to fight the humans. That way they'll think twice before killing her. The same princess is absolutely creaming in love for the guy who runs this place. Dude has that Stockholm Syndrome riz. And God say this shit works because this bimbo keeps blushing 24/7 for my G and staring at him like she wants to devour him. With a tower with this layout, the results of his second life change completely. I don't want to give spoilers, but let's just say that the first attack from the humans ended in a tragedy. Okay, but why did this dude do all of this? And why, even in the strongest continent on Earth, is he completely untouched? See, every king has a set of rules to follow that are supposed to increase the likelihood of success. But what if those rules bring about your downfall? See, bro, this guy went to the elite academy, the hardest one of them all. He was the top student by every single metric, loved by the director and all the teachers. Then he was thrown into another world and he followed those so-called instructions to the T. He built a tower, sent troops to farm points on the heroes, kidnapped a princess to farm hate from the citizens, and did everything the rules said. But if we skip ahead, we see that it was all in vain. The heroes barged into his room after clearing the tower. The king kept asking himself, how the fuck if he, who had dragon descent blood and was top of the class, couldn't do it, then this was impossible. He asked the hero standing in front of him, how? The guy just laughs and says they all say the same thing, but they're all too dumb. Every single king kidnaps a famous princess and leaves clues so we come to the tower. If they were smart, they would just kill the king. But our bro knows that killing the king doesn't give hate points, so that doesn't work. And besides, it would go against the standards he has to follow. The hero keeps laughing and says the worst part is how they keep sending troops so the heroes can get stronger over time. Even the tower itself starts with low-level mobs, perfect for the heroes to farm and power up before the final challenge. The MC can only think that this is what the legendary standards had taught him. Then the hero pulls out his sword and says, the moment the tower gets too easy, we just kill the demon king, take his items, and wait for a new one. Too easy. That's why I love demon kings. They always bring expan and fortune. The other heroes start thanking the demon king, saying he was amazing and that his tower was perfect to farm. This is a crazy level of disrespect. And in the moment the main hero goes to cut off his head, Robert starts casting something, shouting that he's going to take everyone down with him. But the head just hits the floor with a thud like trash. Hero bro says he'll take the horns to sell, when suddenly the body begins to glow purple, and the MC shouts that even though this is the last bit of his life, he will take them with him. Before the hero can say anything, the whole place is engulfed in a purple flash, and everyone's skin begins to disintegrate. The only thing the MC can think is that those fucking standards were completely wrong. If he had known that before, he would have been a completely different demon king. Boom, a flash of light. Someone's calling out, Burja Deus, and the kid wakes up, bam, right in the middle of training. There are a bunch of people around him, confused, and he's confused too. Like, huh? Where is he? And why is he alive? Someone calls for Burja Deus, telling him to hurry up and come to the front. What an ugly name. The protagonist is standing there while looking around, trying to figure out what's going on. It's impossible. The instructor says, Burja Deus, you've got a brilliant mind. Why are you so distracted on graduation day? The protagonist remembers it's graduation day, the day he received the red mark. That's the symbol that you're a demon king, and you just graduated from the military academy. It's obvious he went back 15 years into the past to the final day of training. He's standing in line, not understanding, while people are saying, all students come to the stage, soon you'll become incredible demon kings, so let's do your oaths. Then the guy on his left tells Burja Deus to read his commandments. There it is, the demon king has to build the tower. The demon king has to kidnap the princess. The demon king has to blah blah blah, everything he hated doing. He doesn't even need to look because he memorized it. He followed every one of those rules, and in the end he got used like a toy by the heroes, and that's what killed him. And now they want him in front of everyone to recite that, or worse, swear he'll follow those rules in front of everyone. He's furious, grinding his teeth while the guy next to him says, Burja Deus, please read the Demon King rules. And then he shouts that he refuses. The rest of the students are like, out of nowhere. He was normal until yesterday. And he goes off saying there's no way he's going to swear to do something that stupid. Following those standards is idiotic and completely useless. He doesn't know who invented those rules, but all of it is garbage. The demons around him are stunned. Everyone's shocked, not believing it. And that was the day our protagonist became the trash of that place and ended up graduating dead last. And honestly, fair. He literally just got his head cut off because of those rules. Next chapter, someone slams a hand on the table. It's the Demon King's Archduke Arcane, saying, Burja Deus, you can be executed right now for insulting the Demon King's standards. He's in court and they're giving him a chance, saying that considering his exemplary behavior, he can still get an opportunity. Take back everything he said and apologize to the entire Demon Kingdom. If he doesn't, he'll be sent to Arian. Everyone knows that's basically a death sentence. Others want his head cut off right away. Why give another chance to a criminal? The Demon King says, you should know this is the place where all Demon Kings have died. But Berger says, send me. I'll prove by going there that the standards you follow are garbage. Right away they say he really doesn't deserve a second chance. He'll be sent there immediately. But he won't get any of the privileges demons usually receive when they go there, and nobody will accompany him. Until his assignment is finished, he's forbidden from returning to the Demon King's kingdom. And with that, he gets kicked out through a gate in the sky. He thinks, well, I figured this would happen. After pulling that stunt, here I am in Arian, the same place where the heroes killed me. Even before the regression, he personally chose this place, because he thought that since he was the strongest, he should conquer the hardest place of all. But that arrogance cost him his life, since the heroes were abusing those standards. He crashes down in the middle of the mountains and ends up in the northern continent's mountain range, but he swears it's not happening again. This time, he's the one who's going to abuse the system. Next scene cuts to a guy with a little beard, putting on a shirt, looking sharp. This is the top graduate of the Demon Academy, Gordon Jury. And just so you get it, he's the top graduate of the Demon's Academy. Our protagonist came from the Demon King Academy, and the top graduate of the Demon Academy has to serve the top graduate of the Demon King Academy. People are saying, damn, Berger, you got insanely lucky. You're gonna serve Lord Demon Berger. You're a legend. Damn it, if I'd worked harder, I'd be the one serving him. Gordon says, everyone there is good people. Relax. But he's thinking, yeah, nobody's as good as Lord Berger. A person with the dragon demon bloodline, a once-in-a-millennium talent, a prodigy who'll be remembered forever. Just graduating in the same year as him was already a blessing. Whatever dimension he gets sent to, Gordon knows he'll conquer everything with this guy, and alongside him, Gordon will be carved into Demon King history forever. But then the protagonist shouted, this is all wrong. The demon standards are garbage, and everything fell apart. Still, since the kid got the best grades, here he is being sent to the continent of Urgas too. Gordon wants to know why he has to be stuck with this guy now. Berger shows up. Hey, what's up? They said no demon would come with me, but they sent one anyway. Good to see you, Gordon. Gordon wants to know why he did something like that. The protagonist doesn't know what he's talking about, and Gordon panics, asking why he said that in front of everyone. He ended up getting both of them sent to Arian, this place where it's guaranteed they'll both die. He says he's going to rip his hair out. The protagonist tells him to calm down, and then he gets confused. Why is Gordon acting like this? Before the regression, he was so confident and composed. He's standing there saying, sir, it might be hard, but you and I together can do it. The protagonist thinks the situation is totally different, but if I tell him about the regression, he'll think I'm insane, so forget it. Gordon cries, telling him to forget everything he said. In the end, this is his job, so fine, let's go. First Demon King rule, you have to build the Demon King's tower, but it can't be hidden or in a place with terrible weather. It has to be somewhere the heroes can find it. Gordon says, sir, this place is dangerous, hidden by mountains and the snow here is thick. The heroes will have a hard time, so we should look for another place. But Berger says he doesn't care. The tower is going right here. He plants the seed in the ground because what he's doing is obvious. Gordon warns him, don't you realize you're going against the Demon King's standards? Are you really going to throw away even the most basic rule? The protagonist thinks he gets it. As a demon, Gordon has those beliefs carved into him. But anyone who's been through it and seen what really happens when you follow those rules knows this is the best choice. He clenches his fist until it bleeds and says, listen, Gordon. Every standard Demon Kings follow is garbage, especially when you're living here in Arian. The ground starts shaking. The mountains tremble. Red energy starts spreading through the seed. A circle appears and the protagonist says Arian is packed with heroes. You could even say there are too many heroes, more than there should be. The system says the tower has identified the user of the demonic flame race, dragon tribe named Bergedeus. Identification complete. His tower begins to be summoned, and the protagonist thinks that's why demons keep dying in this place. Humans realized after countless destructions that towers have certain mechanisms, so they're using the standards demons follow against them. In a land where everything demons do gets used against them, you could say they're playing by the hero's rules. Gordon asks what he's talking about, and then the protagonist makes a little 5-floor tower. Gordon says, what kind of tower is this? It's tiny. The protagonist says, come on, let's go inside. The first floor is huge, wide open. Gordon looks around and says, a normal tower would be full of monsters, complex structures, and labyrinths, but this one is empty. This doesn't look like anything. It looks more like the tower of a demon king, with no privileges at all, and especially considering the Demon King's hall. All the floors are completely empty. Well, the seed's already been used, so we can't undo it. At least we should follow the second standard. The Demon King needs to kidnap either the prince or the princess, preferably someone close to the throne. Then he says, Demon King, let me give you some advice. The closest kingdom to us is Ursgate, over in the Korzen region. There's a princess there who's about to take the throne. If we kidnap her and absorb that kingdom's hatred, we'll grow a lot. But he can already picture it. The Demon King is going to refuse. Then the protagonist says, no, we're doing it. The guy asks, hold up, so now you're going to follow the rules? He explains, there's a princess I've had my eye on. Gordon gets excited and goes, well, if that's the case, then let's go. But the protagonist answers, no, you're staying to guard the tower. This place can't be left empty. The guy starts feeling relieved. Thank goodness. In the end, he really is the Demon King. He was just stressed because of graduation. But if that's the situation, then we can actually follow some rules. The protagonist is at the window, and the guy asks, wait, what about you? Where are you going? The protagonist says he's going to the place farthest from this tower, to the southern edge on another continent, the kingdom of Hilderan. Through a window, the protagonist is closing in, and the little princess is in bed. He's after the most unknown princess, the one nobody even cares about, the 13th. He shows up super calm under the moonlight saying, hey princess, I'm here to take you. Meanwhile, Gordon is up in the north of the country of the world really, wondering why he doesn't follow any rules at all. The little princess wants to know who he is. He says he's the Demon King, here to kidnap her. But the princess weirdly asks if he can handle her. The Demon King realizes she's strange. What kind of question is that? Does she think a Demon King is a joke? He says, obviously, I'm the Demon King. She holds out her hands and says, alright then, take me. He thinks it's odd and says, you're way too calm for some reason. What are you planning, kid? She says, I figured something like this would happen sooner or later. I was born a princess, so I've been expecting it. Bergia replies, if you think I'm gonna let my guard down, forget it. I'm pretty desperate too, so there's no way I'm letting anyone trick me. The girl just says she's not planning anything. How would she set up a trap for a specific day anyway? That doesn't make much sense. He thinks that would be an insanely over-the-top level of dedication, but he still has a weird feeling. Still, she's already gotten up and asked when they're leaving, so we're back at Berger's tower. Gordon celebrates. Whew, you made it back safe. The protagonist just says, take her up and put her on the 4th floor. Gordon confused, huh? We're not putting her in a cell? The protagonist says, she came along without even putting up much of a fight, so let's be nice. Then Gordon says, alright, but Demon King, there's something I need to tell you. They get to the 4th floor and there's absolutely nothing. The princess lies down on the floor thinking, so I really did get kidnapped. There's nothing here. No servants, no pillow, no blanket, no pretty garden. It's totally different from my kingdom. But it wasn't exactly bad either. The weirdest kidnapper ever. The protagonist wants to know, wait, I got an invitation from the Beast Tower? Gordon says yes. It's a welcome party for him, the new Demon King. But the protagonist says, honestly, I think it's just a pathetic invitation so they can humiliate me or something. Everyone knows Demon Kings are way too proud to join hands with anyone else. Still, our reign is such a brutal place, and the heroes are so strong that it's one of the few lands, maybe the only one in the world, where they sometimes cooperate. The protagonist always thought they were weak and decided to ignore them, but this time, maybe he should at least figure out who they are. So they arrive at the Beast Tower. The Demon King there introduces himself as Draxon, saying he's ruled this place for 70 years, so the kid is the new Demon King. He heard the kid went against Demon King tradition, but he's not as worthless as Draxon expected. Berger just asks if Draxon is looking for a fight. He should just say why he called him here. Draxon steps closer and says the kid doesn't know anything. He got orders from Archduke Arcane to keep an eye on him. Arcane warned him the kid was coming. The protagonist asks, wait, you mean that ancient vampire? The wolf, furious, says he shouldn't refer to the Archduke like that. He throws meat on the ground and tells him to lick it, saying if he does, he'll forgive him. But Berger asks if Draxon really doesn't know why he's here. Draxon says it's obvious he was punished for trash-talking the orthodox rules. The protagonist says yeah, and according to those rules, Demon Kings can't kill each other. Then he stomps on the meat, shattering the entire floor, and asks if Draxon really thinks he's going to follow that. The big wolf starts shaking, asking what kind of aura that is. Then Draxon says, I just want to know why the Archduke said you had to kidnap a princess, and if you can't do it in a month, blah blah blah. The protagonist turns around and says, I knew you were going to ask, I already kidnapped her, and she's exactly my type. What is this with the protagonist? He's acting weird too. Now we're back at the 5-story tower. Gordon says he really showed the mastery and excellence of a Demon King. The protagonist says it was nothing special, he just wanted to make sure that guy won't interfere with the plan. But they need to be ready, so Gordon is going to check on the princess. They need to learn how they can make use of her. A while later he's thinking the consequences of insulting the orthodox ways were worse than he expected. Even so, he'd make the same choice again. Better to die than bow your head to trash like that. He won't repeat the same mistakes. He'll rebuild the foundation from the beginning. He captured the princess with the best ranking, so he's gaining some demon energy points. Either way, it was still the safest method. Then he sees he has 13,000 points and gets confused. Wait, why do I have so many points? Suddenly he receives a recording from the Beast Tower. Draxon says, kid, I have to congratulate you. Our first meeting was pretty rough, but I have to respect your choices. Because you pulled off what nobody in our reign has managed to do, and you did it fast. I'm impressed. Looks like that whole insulting the orthodox way thing was just an act. The protagonist immediately thinks something's off. Gordon comes running. Demon King, we've got a problem. The 4th floor, it's a whole garden. When the protagonist goes in, he sees the place is going through a natural transformation. The little princess is there playing with a bunch of spirits flying around her. The protagonist realizes it. This girl built an ecosystem inside the tower. First of all, to do that, you'd have to be someone who mastered 4 elements. He's sure he captured the 13th princess, the weakest, most useless one. In his lifetime, only spirits could have that much power. So he says, you're not the 13th princess. She replies, so you thought I was Helena. He says, wait, who are you? She says her name is Ernan Hilderan. She's the first princess. Oh no. In the kingdom of Hilderan, everything is chaos, with the king screaming, demanding to know who captured his favorite princess. He's already sending the army, ordering them to bring her back immediately. Back with her, she says that's why she asked if he could handle her. The protagonist still doesn't get it. In his past life, he'd heard about a princess who was an elemental genius. She was overflowing with mana in theory, so how did he not detect it? She shows him the ring and says it hides all the mana she has. It's a treasure passed down through every generation of the royal family. That answers his question. So does he want to send her back? The protagonist watches her, realizing he's in the exact situation he didn't want. But sending the princess back would be an eternal humiliation. No kingdom in this world fears a coward, and it would become insanely hard to collect demon energy. So that's it, he has to go through with the plan. The system announces that hatred toward Demon King Burjay is being detected. The demon points won't stop rising. He's almost at 20,000. The protagonist gets it. So they found out I'm the one who kidnapped her. Then he says, it doesn't change the fact that you're not the 13th princess. You're still my prisoner. The scene shifts to the kingdom of Ryodoran, where the king is furious, ordering them to kill that idiot demon king and bring the princess back. But they still don't know who's behind it. Someone says, Your Majesty, we still don't know which demon king did this. We're sending patrols, but give it a moment. The king is boiling over, yelling for them to hurry up, find out, and bring her back. A human in the back says, Something's weird, my king. The demon king of lust captured another nation's princess recently, and the heroes killed him. The message was crystal clear. So why would another demon king show up and kidnap ours? People look thoughtful, while the king, still raging, says that explains it. It must be someone new who doesn't know what happened. A knight steps forward and says they found traces of teleportation magic. It looks like it came from the northern region, toward the Urgus Mountains. The king is confused. Wait, the Urgus Mountains. So we're back at Burjay's tower. Gordon warns the Demon King, their army's going to get here soon. Don't you think it's way too early for you to wipe out an entire troop like that? But he says, I don't think so. Ryodoran's army can't get here. At the strategy table, people are saying, the Urgus Mountains are way up north and we're down south. How are we supposed to get there? Logistics are already a nightmare, and every nation would have to let our army pass through. The protagonist is sure they won't allow it, because the humans are still fighting among themselves. So the king says they have no choice. They'll need help from the Heroes Guild, which has already posted a mission to rescue her. Everyone's thinking they kidnapped Ryodoran's princess. This demon king is insane. The problem is, everyone knows Urgus is packed with monsters. It's extremely far, and it's a brutal trip. The heroes aren't very interested, saying this time Ryodoran can deal with it on their own. They're not dying for that king. Burjay always knew they call themselves heroes, but they all work for money. They won't come all the way out to some northern mountain and risking death just to rescue that girl. That's exactly why he set his base here. Gordon thinks it over. Looks like not following the rules actually worked this time. Even if the decisions don't make any sense, they're working here in Aryan. He barely arrived in this place, and it feels like he's been here before. The king is furious again, demanding to know why no heroes are showing up. He smacks his hand against his face in anger, because all they care about is money. The protagonist knows that's why it'll take time for them to put together a decent party to attack him. Meanwhile, he'll rack up points and buy some creatures. The kid is preparing his castle for the attack, but even if he's gaining points, it's nowhere near enough to stop a real assault. So he says, Gordon, contact Draxon. I want to sell demon energy. Gordon says okay, but he freaks out, asking what he means. He doesn't understand demon energy is the most important currency for a demon king. It's extremely limited among their kind. It's what he uses to summon creatures and upgrade the tower, so why trade it for human money? The protagonist says, yeah, I know. Draxon's been here a long time, and he'll pay a good amount for it. But it's not enough to stop them, so I need money. Because with money, there's something I can do. The scene shifts to Rautin, the fortress city. A hooded figure walks up to some soldiers who tell him to stop, and he introduces himself as a mercenary. He tosses a coin into their hands. The soldier blushes and lets him through. It's our protagonist, Burja. First step, find a guide who can feed him the information he needs about this city. At the Scarlet Mercenaries base, some guys are talking. Hey captain, shouldn't we get out of here? Another guy answers, why? This place is great. Soldiers kill the monsters and we just sit here and take it easy. What place in this world is better than this? Someone with a mug raised says, didn't you hear the news? Looks like there's a new Demon King tower out in the Urgus Mountains. The guy replies, are you serious? Don't you know Demon Kings build those huge towers where everyone can reach them? Another one says, I heard they kidnapped Ryodoran's princess. But he answers, no way. Like they'd kidnap her that far away. How would the heroes even attack so he could use his monsters? So the big-nosed guy goes, how about this? Looks like the Heroes Guild refused to save the princess. The guy kicks his feet up on the table and says, yeah, right. Like heroes would ever refuse. An heir is valuable. They're just stalling so they can squeeze as much money as possible out of the king. You've got to remember what those heroes are like. Right then, the protagonist shows up behind them and says he gets what's going on. The guy freaks out, falls on the floor, demanding to know who he is. The protagonist goes, wow, you guys are really well informed. Here's how it's going to be. One of you stays here and everyone else gets out. Now, he shows up making a scene, and obviously they're not going to listen. They go straight for him. But while they're still midair, each one takes a hit to the gut, the face, the nose, and they all crash to the ground. He plows through the whole group. Then this huge musclehead comes in swinging a hammer that looks like it's about to land clean, except the protagonist blocks it with a smile. The guy starts shaking. A couple crossbows fire from the side, another strike slams into the wall. All the hunters can think is, what kind of monster just walked in here? And yeah, he is a monster. Technically. There's chaos inside the pub, and the people outside just assume those idiots are fighting again. Same thing every day. Except today it's a bit more than usual, because everyone's basically half dead on the floor. The protagonist walks up to the guy and says, "Don't be scared. You'll walk out alive if you answer everything." The guy says, "Just ask. He'll talk." First thing he asks, "Where's the slave market?" Damn, the protagonist just took it to the next level. He's going to sell demonic energy and make humans fight. The problem is if they betray him, right? They're already there seeing the first people in cages, and he asks, "Are they only human slaves?" The guy kind of awkward says, "Yeah, what, you don't like that?" Our guy tosses a sack of gold and says, "I want the rarest thing you've got." The seller goes, "All right, come with me." The protagonist notices this guy isn't right in the head. He almost got his own subordinate killed, and now he's smiling because of money. Demons craving demonic energy is basically the same as humans craving money. The seller tells him to follow that way, and we cut to a conversation with Gordon, who wants to know what he plans to do with human money. He says he's going to buy slaves, otherworld species humans captured. An elf, because of their integrity, would be a great option. That guy would work as a spy and stir up chaos among the heroes. Scene switches to the hero Hillen Cargill, introducing himself. He gets the job to save the princess and says they can count on him. He'll rescue her and bring back the Demon King's head, all in the name of justice. Back to the deal. The protagonist thinks this will be perfect, since elves are supposedly known for being innocent. Then the seller comes over doing that little hand gesture and goes, "So my friend, what are you here to buy?" The protagonist says, "I'm here to buy an elf slave. This guy here is paying." The mercenary hesitates, gives a hard look, then starts handing over coins saying no. Look, he got money to pay. Then the protagonist says he needs to confirm something, and tells both of them to leave the room. The seller warns him the elf might go berserk, but the mercenary says not to worry about it. Berja breaks the muzzle and says it's sad to see a noble elf reduced to a slave. The elf immediately senses the energy, asks if he's a demon, and wants to know why a demon is buying an elf. The protagonist says he's there to give him a chance to get revenge on humans, but the elf says he doesn't trust humans, and he doesn't trust demons either. The protagonist says with him it'll be different. If the elf swears loyalty for 50 years, he guarantees his safety and freedom after that. And 50 years isn't even that long for an elf, considering how long they live. But the elf says you're a demon. Your race wants to destroy the world tree the elves serve. How am I supposed to trust someone like you? And honestly, it's already weird that you're a demon king here looking for help from an elf. The protagonist thinks the bastard just said the obvious but answers, "Fine. Then we'll do this. I swear on the Demon King rulebook that I'll never lay a finger on the world tree." The elf is stunned. He knows those rules are sacred to demons the way the tree is sacred to elves. And the protagonist finishes by saying that in return all he wants is for the elf to follow him for 50 years. The elf laughs and says he really is a weird demon, but if he went that far and made that oath, then fine. His name is Granada from the Maple tribe, and he swears he'll follow the Demon King who sent this guy there. That's when Berje says, "No, I'm the Demon King." Granada just stands there, not getting it. Then he starts laughing, saying it's hilarious. Sure, the Demon King went to some rundown place to buy a slave. What kind of Demon King is that? He'd have to be dirt poor with no power at all. If he really is the Demon King, Granada swears he'll help him for 100 years, because he must be desperate. After that roast, we're back at the tower. The protagonist goes, "Well, like you said, you're helping me for 100 years. Granada's like, "What the hell? So you really are the Demon King? Hold on, something's off. Also, nobody told me the tower was this empty. There's literally nothing up to the 3rd floor. The 4th floor is just nature and the 5th is empty. There isn't a single monster in this place. Clearly you won't last a year. The heroes will kill you here." The protagonist just expands his aura and asks if he forgot the contract. Right away, Granada realizes this bastard really does have the power of a Demon King. The tower might be weirdly empty, but at least the monsters in the Urgash region haven't attacked them, because nobody wants to risk messing with the Demon King. With no real choice, Granada makes the oath there by the Tree of Life. He'll stay in this place for the next 100 years, swearing loyalty. He's sure of it. This guy came all the way to get him. At least he'll get an important role. If he can get revenge by following this evil plan, perfect. Then Berja looks at him and says, "All right, you can start cooking for me." Granada's like, "What do you mean cooking?" And we're already cutting vegetables while he's still confused. "I wasn't brought here to be part of some important plan." And Ernan is right next to him, having fun, saying it's nice to see someone finally showed up to help her. Maybe today they could cook like a little vegetable bread. A bit later, on the 5th floor at dinner time, everyone who exists in this place is there. 4 people. Granada asks, Demon King, that girl there, she wouldn't happen to be the kidnapped princess from that kingdom, would she?" The protagonist says, "Yeah, that's her. Ernan Hildren." Granada yells, "No way, you grabbed the main country's princess with this 5-story tower?" The protagonist says, "That's why I went to buy you. Now sit down and eat." Granada still doesn't get what he means, while the protagonist compliments Ernan's cooking. On the 4th floor, Granada asks, "Wait, are you trying to make me fight the heroes here?" The protagonist says, "No, if they get here it's over, we're dead. You're basically going to destroy the human world for me." Granada gets it. "You want me to be a spy?" The protagonist says yes, but first he needs to see what the kid can do. Granada goes, "Hold on, what do you think this is? That I'm going to beat the Demon King inside the Demon King's tower? Are you out of your mind?" The protagonist says, "All right then, I'll use only one hand and I won't use demonic energy. If you win, I'll cut your contract by 50 years. Granada gets ready and says he'd better keep his word. Then he's gone, charging in, throwing a stone attack straight at him. The protagonist blocks and says, not bad for someone who was locked up. Are you absorbing mana from the 4th floor and powering up? Granada says it's too late to complain about that. He made the bet and he's using everything he's got. Then plants burst out of the ground wrapping around his foot, and Granada tells him to open his mouth, because now he's taking back 50 years. Berger smiles and says fine, but he'd better remember who he's fighting. He activates a dragon hand saying he doesn't even need demonic energy to use it, and Granada doesn't need to worry, he won't die. An explosion echoes through the mountains and we're at the mercenaries' base. That weird guy salutes and says it's an honor to see him again. The protagonist says, I'm here to hire you for a year. The guy immediately goes, all right, you can hire us. What are you paying? The guys in the back are all beat up saying that bastard has a ton of money, but he beat everyone up. The protagonist drops the sack of coins on the ground and says, this is your upfront payment. One of the battered guys goes, that guy's insane. I've always liked him. What about you? The leader realizes his squad is more fired up than he expected. He needs new people. Then the protagonist says, I've got one more thing. You're hiring this guy here, putting him on your team, and he'll pass along some orders when I tell him to. The captain just nods while the others say, hey, shouldn't we at least know who he is? Putting a stranger on the team is risky. That's when they see Granada completely wrecked, introducing himself. The guys get all emotional, like he's one of us. They crowd in, welcoming him, saying he's part of the team now. The protagonist thinks they might look like a mediocre mercenary group, but they operate in Urgest. It's hard to find people in that region who'd agree to something like this. And Berger knows exactly which hero would answer a call from Rai Duran. Helene Cargill, the guy who killed the Demon King of Lust. He says, Red Falcon Mercenaries, this is your first mission, investigate Helene Cargill, the hero hired by Rai Duran. They agree. Back at Berger's tower, he says now that he left the hero situation to Granada, it's his turn to get stronger. Demonic energy points can be used to upgrade the tower or even the Demon King himself. And for Berger, who sold all his points, the only way to strengthen himself is spiritual blooming, a mana crystal that forms after absorbing nature's mana. When you consume it, it gives you a strength boost. Since Mount Urgest has had its mana barely absorbed by anyone, it's packed with it, and that creates much more refined mana blooms. Basically, it's a place full of treasure. For a demon like him, it's obviously not as effective as demonic energy, but it's what he's got, so he says, I'm heading out, Gordon. I'm going to hunt some spirit blooms. Gordon says, Demon King, you've lost it. You know, finding one of those is like finding a needle in a desert, and monsters aren't like pets. They'll attack the second they see you. Berger says monsters are the least of his worries, it's easy to deal with them. The real problem is the flowers. Gordon says it'd only be easy if he had an excellent mana detector. And yeah, we already know where this is going. Someone knocks and Ernan shows up asking if they're busy. In that moment, both of them have the same idea. And now we're outside with her having a great time, saying she's super excited. Lately, she'd been kind of down and bored. At least he kept his promise and gave her the 4th floor. The protagonist says yes, she can have the 4th floor forever if she finds some spirit blooms for him. While he's thinking the 4th floor is already completely taken over by her plants. What else is she going to do? Either way, he has to admit the fact she wants to decorate his demon tower at all is crazy. Meanwhile, Ernan is celebrating. She thought she wouldn't even be allowed to leave the tower. Good thing she went to check what he was doing. But then the protagonist suddenly puts a hand on her shoulder, pulls her in close and takes off flying. Little by little, Ernan opens her eyes and realizes that on the night she arrived, she didn't notice how vast this world really is. Before, her life was always the same. Magic training, studying, repeat. She thought she'd live like that forever. Then she says, Demon King, did you know I'm probably the first person to ever fly over these mountains? He's about to say, Princess, I don't care about that. What matters is, but she cuts him off and says her name is Ernan, and since they're living in the same tower, he should at least use her name. The protagonist doesn't like that. He grabs her by the arm, threatening to drop her, asking if she forgot what her place is. Is she trying to get herself thrown in prison or what? He's already telling her to use the spirits already, and she apologizes and the little critters start flying out. The protagonist thinks it's going to take a while, but still faster than him and Gordon. But then right after that, she says she's already found one. They fly over there and find an ice flower in the middle of a whole bunch of orcs. He realizes, unfortunately, they've got company. So he walks up and says, creatures from the demon realm, if you still have any honor in the blood running through your veins, follow my orders. But the orcs just say no. They don't like demons, they don't trust him, and they want him dead. Berger's veins practically pop, and he says Gordon was right. Yeah, these beasts deserve to die, and it's easier to just burn them all. The creatures jump in to attack. For a second I thought they were going to come to some kind of agreement, and he'd take them to the castle, but nope, they just get completely evaporated. There's another one coming from behind telling the others to hit that unprotected girl, but the protagonist just holds his hand out to the side and makes them disappear too. Ernan is thinking, she'd heard those orcs are insanely hard to deal with, but they couldn't even get close. So that's the power of a demon king. Night falls and there's a sea of bodies all around. They finally make it to the Hyacinth spirit, an intact water and ice spirit. She's totally into it, but he immediately tells her to stop staring and takes it, saying if she finds another one like it, she can keep it. Thinking to himself that if you want humans to work, you've got to dangle a carrot. Unfortunately, she tried really hard but didn't find anything else, so they went back to the tower. Looking at the flower, he thinks that at first he thought bringing this girl along would be a problem, but it turns out she's going to be more useful than he expected. She's there all snug under his clothes. Meanwhile, Gordon says they got some info from Granada. Looks like along with that Helene Cargill guy, 2 more heroes are coming from the capital, Ryrodaran, but they're not heading straight to Urgas. They're going the classic hero route, form a little party in some villages, do a few quests, and slowly get stronger. And Gordon, all excited, goes, "That's why I put together a list of plans. Check out how we're going to take them out little by little." Burgee deletes everything immediately, saying, "No, no, no. This time they're not doing anything. They're not even going to interrupt the so-called hero journey." Gordon asks why. Burgee explains that half-baked interruptions only make those guys stronger. Instead, just send Granada and the mercenaries to join them and earn their trust. Gordon says, "So you're not following the rules again? But you need to understand, right now, this tower can't stop any group." But the protagonist says the tower is going to be reinforced with some dwarves. Granada panics right away, saying if people see that tiny species inside the tower, they'll become a laughingstock. The protagonist tells him to shut up. He explains they're not stopping the heroes using dwarves. More specifically, they need the magical tools the dwarves have. Normally, when heroes reach the castle, they expect a bunch of weak monsters at the start. Then they climb the tower little by little. But if they get greeted by a dozen cannons, Gordon thinks it's pretty weird. But there's no denying the heroes wouldn't be ready for that. Still, he shakes his head like, no, 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 no. This is way too far outside the standard playbook. But the protagonist has already vanished, and Gordon is left fuming. Now we're in Wolfner, the dwarves' underground city. A human is working a forge there, and his name is Logar Friedrich, and it looks like he's about to get kidnapped by the Demon King. In front of the city gate, someone says that before returning, he fought countless dwarves, but this is the first time he's entered their city. At the Midnight Inn, our guy shows up to ask for a weapon, but he doesn't know where to go, so who's the best blacksmith around here? The protagonist tosses some coins down, and the guy says he's a pretty smart human. Borja knows dwarves work kind of like heroes, and the guy says go to the center of the city. You'll see a massive hole. There's an elevator that chooses which floor you go to, but there's also an authentication system to identify intruders. The protagonist just jumps from the top straight to the very last floor and ignores all of it, because the human warned him it was the very bottom one, the deepest room of all. That's where he'll find the best dwarf and blacksmith in the city, Mr. Logar Friedrich. The human is hammering steel, and the protagonist notices it looks like he's using mana somehow, so maybe this is the guy he needs. Now all he has to do is abduct him, but the flames from the hammering push the protagonist back. Berger realizes the humans sense the demonic energy, but he just kept hammering anyway. And in the very next second, the dwarf is right beside him, coming in to land a hit, and the protagonist has to block it with his bare hand. And right then he realizes the guy is a hero. The dwarf says yes, he's a hero. A dwarf with the power of smithing, and he's been on adventures too. So how dare he invade this place, you damn demon. So the protagonist goes, all right then, since you already know I'm a demon, I guess I'll have to tell you the truth. I'm the Demon King. And he grabs him by the throat. The hammer drops to the floor. Some dwarves come in looking for Logar, but the place is empty. Everyone starts shouting that someone kidnapped Logar to block all exits, but the protagonist is already up on top of another building. He warns him, "Dwarf, if you make a sound, you die." Logar asks, "Don't tell me you're here to kidnap our beautiful dwarf princess?" The protagonist says no, he's not interested in that. He heard dwarves and blacksmiths are good at making underground passages, so if that's true, start guiding him. The dwarf is still convinced the Demon King is here for the princess, and is lying. The reason he's been hiding in this mountain is exactly because he's afraid of the Demon King. So why did this guy come after him? Truth is, as amazing a blacksmith as Logar is, he's a pretty weak hero. So Burge says, fine. If you won't open your mouth, then I guess I'll have to kidnap the princess. And everyone's gonna know you sold information about her and chose to be let go so she'd be taken instead. Logar says that can't happen. It really is a vile plan. Pure evil. And Logar's problem is everyone in the city knows he's a weak dwarf. Just some random hero. So if that rumor starts spreading, they'll absolutely believe it. And he'll be tortured for the rest of his life. Then the protagonist says, so choose. Am I taking the princess, or am I taking you? I'll make sure you're safe with me. I swear on the demon's rulebook. The little dwarf stops to think, wait, that's their mantra. If he swore on that, he definitely won't break it. So he says fine, and they start making the underground passage. Back at Logar's forge, everyone is looking for him. There's a princess. Wait, princess? No, this girl has shoulders like 15 meters wide. She doesn't know where Logar is, and he was supposed to make her weapon. That's the princess of this place, Louise Worf. And just from her design, you can tell she's going to cause chaos. She immediately tells everyone to shut up and find him. How did anyone let a hero get kidnapped? A dwarf says, my lady, he's a hero, but he's really weak. She tells them to shut up again, find the kidnapper, and bring him to her. If they don't, she'll rip the head off every dwarf there. Meanwhile, our protagonist and Logar keep going through the secret passage. For some reason, the protagonist is staring at the guy's butt swaying as he walks. Then he goes, you bastard. How long do I have to keep looking at that? The dwarf tells him to relax. They're almost out, and they'll come out on the mountaintop outside. Then Logar says, all right, this is where my job ends. I showed you the passage, so you go your way. Burgess says, what are you talking about? You're coming with me. Logar says he's insane. He made a vow under the Demon King rules, but the protagonist says he doesn't care about that trash. Now move, cause he's got something to do with him. Logar drops to his knees, begging, please don't kill him, don't torture him. He can do metallurgy, he can make weapons, he can do a lot of things. The protagonist realizes it's easier than he expected, and says if you swear loyalty to me, I'll let you live. The guy swears immediately, says yes. Demon King, you're incredible, I love you. But in his head he's thinking, yeah right, idiot Demon King, like I'm going to obey you. The moment I get out of here and get a chance, I'm going to end you. You'll regret it for the rest of your life, so get ready. But he's completely crushed when he reaches the Demon King's tower and sees the pretty garden. Gordon is furious, saying, for the love of God, Demon King, did you seriously bring a dwarf? Berge tells him to be quiet, and then a little screen opens with Granada asking, hold on, why is there a dwarf in the middle of all this? The princess comes over asking if the dwarf is okay, because he hasn't moved in a while. Logger turns to the protagonist, why am I here? You said you'd free me. The protagonist says, I said I'd be merciful. You can see you're still alive. I just hit the back of your neck so you'd pass out and not try anything on the way. Logger starts laughing like a maniac in the middle of the hall, shaking the whole place. Berge says, looks like you're pretty happy to be my subordinate. Logger says yes, he's very happy to be there. The protagonist says that's a great mindset. Then he gives him his first mission, install a huge wall of cannons on the first floor to destroy the heroes. Scene cuts to the real heroes area in Urgest, in the prep room. Granada is passing along information. People are saying the new Demon King uses black flames. That's the rumor in the city. And that's why most heroes are going to attack with fire-resistant gear. On top of that, everyone's saying the new Demon King doesn't send demon beasts, because he's terrified. Berge notices they're still feeling brave. Too bad they're not going to get anything out of this hero journey. In the end, they'll follow the route, lose interest, and won't even manage to level up. It's just a race against time. Stay on mission, Granada. And then he disappears. The elf is thinking he really doesn't want to send any monsters, so the heroes don't get stronger. No denying it, he understands how those people work. Has there ever been a demon like that in history? Good thing he's not my enemy. Back with the protagonist, he's laying it out. Dwarf, the only restriction is you can't use a single mana stone. I don't care how you build my first floor, as long as you follow that rule. Logger says, my lord, a weapon to kill heroes won't work without mana stones. The protagonist says that's his problem to figure out, and he explains that heroes are blessed by this dimension and can sense energy. If they make traps using mana, they'll notice right away. That's exactly why he brought the best blacksmith. So can he do it or not? The dwarf says he can, because he actually made a tool that hides magic. It takes 3 years to make, but it'll work perfectly. The protagonist cuts him off. Wait, you're clearly making excuses, aren't you? Berge is sure the guy wants him to die in the hero's first attack, so he slaps a collar on him. Logger asks what it is, and he says it's a simple magical device that separates the head from the body. On top of that, it makes sure nobody can see his face, and if he tries to take it off at any time, the protagonist will treat it as an escape attempt and kill him. After that, the protagonist goes through countless kingdoms to get supplies and mana materials. He spends a whole month dragging the poor Logger around, tossing everything into the portal. Then they go back to the dwarves' land. A piece of wood explodes against the wall. The princess, honestly, it's been a month. Where is he? Everyone in this place is so incompetent. He must have escaped somewhere. The dwarves say it's like that. There are countless tunnels. They want to investigate, but it's hard to know which one he used. But Louise doesn't want to hear any of it. She says they have 2 weeks to find the kidnapper, or everyone there dies. She stomps the ground and everyone runs off in a panic saying they'll try to find him. She's furious because in the middle of the forge is what, in theory, should have become her sword. Logger better be alive because he's not allowed to die until her weapon is finished. But then, out of nowhere, Logger shows up right behind her. She turns around and he's holding that item the protagonist gave him, the one that's supposed to make his face impossible to detect. Louise, though, goes, wait, that's a secret tunnel only he knows about. Wait, is that you, Logger? He's totally confused and gives the princess a small, awkward hello. She clenches her fists and says the bastard came back. Looks like he ran off to hide because he didn't want to make her weapon. The poor guy tries to say it's all a misunderstanding, but she says there's no misunderstanding at all. It's obvious he tried to trick the princess. From now on, he's her slave for the rest of his life. But before that, he's getting punished for trying to run. Then the place explodes, knocking her backward, and she demands to know who he is. Right then, Berge shows up, saying, move it, Logger. Grab what you need. The princess is furious, saying he'd better tell her who he is, and why that sick dwarf is helping that bastard. The protagonist says he's the master of that poor little dwarf she's been squeezing for money. And she snaps back, saying she's not squeezing anyone. He's just the slave who's going to make her weapon for the rest of his life. She starts throwing a whole combo of punches, yelling, wanting to know who he thinks he is to try to take her dwarf away. He steps in and kicks her in the neck, but the princess blocks it, winds up her fist and slams him into the wall. She's about to say he's going to die right there, but in the very next second, the protagonist is already behind her, grabbing her by the head, punches flying everywhere. And even though Louise wasn't a hero, she was insanely strong. The protagonist knows how dangerous she is, because before he regressed, she killed a ton of demons and was way more powerful than she is right now. He could, for example, kill her here and now before she gets stronger. The problem is he'd have to burn all his demonic energy to reach that level of strength. And the worst part is, While this fight is happening, she's probably already noticed his power, so now she knows he's a demon king. Meanwhile, Loger is over there collecting everything, and the protagonist asks if he got what they needed. Loger says he's still dismantling it, because they're going to need that mana ghost. Yeah, that item. The one that hides all mana usage and traps. The protagonist tells that bastard to finish it in 1 minute, or he's the one who's going to die. Louise keeps charging in, saying only she gets to kill this guy. Berger has no idea how long he can keep fighting this girl without using demonic energy. And she's saying she doesn't know where he came from, but he's not leaving alive. The protagonist answers that she sounds like a demon king. Then he tells her she should give up, dwarf princess. Today, he's taking her dwarf and her equipment. At that moment, the machine starts falling apart, and Luger says it's ready. Louise, raging, asks how he has the nerve to come back there and steal that. No way he's getting out that easily. But during that distraction, Berger spots an opening, drives a kick into her stomach, and blasts her into the wall. Immediately, he opens the subspace and tells Luger to throw it in there. Louise screams that it's useless, but the item is already gone. Then the slowest dwarf in the world comes running up, asking what's going on. She orders them to chase that way because Luger is escaping through the tunnel, except everything collapses. Out of nowhere, Louise gets all sweet, wondering if he really didn't want to make her a little weapon after all. Which actually makes things more interesting, because now she'll hunt him down personally, even if she has to bring down the entire continent, and he's going to regret it. This girl is carrying 10 times more hatred than Berger. Next chapter, we're at Berger's tower, and the mana device has been placed on the first floor. Ernan and the guard want to know what the hell that is. He just says it's a necessary tool to stop the heroes. Loger says it's installed, and Berger says it better be worth it. A blue glow starts filling the whole room, and the tower recognizes the mana ghost. But syncing with the tower requires 10,000 points. Berger is confused. He didn't even know something like that existed. Still, since it's the first time, he's determined to find out what happens. He had 11,000 points and spent almost all of them. The mana ghost recognizes King Berger as its master, and now the mana ghost's feeding power converts into demonic energy. He's about to ask what that means, but the dwarf is hyped, saying he never imagined this was possible. What the hell happened? And then Berger realizes he didn't even know either, so he tells Ernan to try using any kind of magic, whatever she wants. She raises her arm and creates an elemental explosion, while the guard tells her to stop because she's going to make a mess. Berger thinks normally magic at this level would be detected even from outside, but when he moves to the other side of the room he can't feel anything. He can't sense anyone's presence at all. Looks like that's the potential of the mana ghost item. If he tries to manipulate the tower in this state though, when he turns around he sees the tower is gone. The moment he touches it and uses his energy again, the tower appears once more. He's shocked that this thing is hiding the entire tower. But then he realizes that to pull off that hiding trick, it cost 1,000 demonic points. For now it's not useful, but he's sure later it'll be good for a lot. The dwarf though is thrilled. Come on, let me use it just a little more. I want to examine this whole tower and see what my ghost is interacting with. He's never seen anything like it in all of history, past, future, or present. It's a historic discovery. The protagonist notices the guy is acting like a demon itching for a fight. So he says, fine, if you can trap and wipe out all the heroes here on the first floor, you can do whatever you want. And Loger says, not to worry, those idiots who think they're smart are going to get vaporized. Then the protagonist turns and says, hey princess, you're also going to face the heroes who make it to the 4th floor. She's like, huh? Me? I'm a princess, how am I supposed to fight them? The protagonist says, so what? Aren't you a spirit genius who doesn't want to go back to the royal palace? You're taking your share too. He never imagined he'd have to give her a mission like this, because she's a pretty innocent girl who doesn't even know how the world works. Maybe betraying her race is going too far, but she's already thinking, what do I fight with? Water, fire, earth, wind, what's the best option? Berger tells her, you don't need to beat the heroes. You just need to make it clear you're an enemy too. If this works, I'll guarantee you anything you want. All cute. She says she'll try to create an opening for that, but she has one condition. She wants to be introduced as a subordinate of the Demon King, not as a princess. He doesn't really get it, but fine, okay. Then she asks how she should fight. She could, for example, use her looks to seduce them. She's confident about that. The protagonist tells her to do whatever she wants, as long as she lures the heroes in. They're already heading to the throne room because he has more to do. Planning this defense won't be easy. The cannons will cut down the number of heroes, but there's no way those guys end there. On the 4th floor, they'll have the princess as bait. Maybe they can split the heroes' numbers in half, but in the end, it's inevitable that Berger is the one who'll have to hold out. It's time for him to use that item to start getting stronger. So he says, hey princess, let's go for a little walk. She gets all happy, but outside it's freezing and there's nobody around. Looks like he went hunting for those spirit flowers and couldn't find any. He tells her she's pretty useless. The little spirits are all smacking them, pulling hair, when suddenly someone approaches. It's one of those blue orcs, and the protagonist is already ready to destroy him, saying he's sick of these guys. But the guy immediately drops to his knees. Back when he showed up the first time, it was said these guys might end up serving him, and now here it is. He introduces himself as Krutu, chief of the Blue Ice tribe. He welcomes the Demon King and asks them to accept them as friends and as the same race. The protagonist is like, huh, why do you want that? Now the guy starts apologizing, saying, our ancestors betrayed the demons, and we carry the original sin, so please, we want to restore our honor by serving the Demon King. But Burjay isn't stupid, he just says spit it out. In the end, you just want to get stronger by becoming demons and you're scared I'll kill everyone. Also, I know you've got more connections to the spirit flowers. Krutu says there's no hiding anything from him and has someone bring something over. When they open the box, there are 3 flowers. Now the protagonist gets it, that's why he couldn't find any. He realizes these guys can talk smoothly, they know how to negotiate, and they're good fighters. Still, it's weird, why are they so smart if they're just grunt orcs? The guy explains that to survive in these harsh lands, they had to develop more intelligence than brute strength. Burjay says it's funny, cause now they're talking to him because they need strength, but he finds it interesting and says, alright then, I like you. He activates the magic circle and says he'll accept them, but for now, only Krutu will be marked as a demon. With the new power he's about to receive, he's supposed to travel across the snowfields, conquer more territory, and increase the tribe's strength in Burjay's name. He's supposed to wait for the next orders, because he'll be rewarded with power far greater than this. That way, his tribe will be eternal. And Krutu instantly bulks up, huge, jacked, turning dark on the spot. He thanks him, saying from now on he's devoted to the Demon King. Everyone bows. Now they've got a 5-story tower that can be hidden. A legion of grunt orcs in the mountains. Logar built a ton of cannons on floor 1. Ernan is on floor 4 with her spirits, masked, and the protagonist thinks, good, every piece is in place. He wants those damn heroes to come because they're gonna pay for the humiliation from the past life. In the middle of the forest, the blonde guy Hillian celebrates. Granada, we're almost there. And Granada's like, yeah, we are. The guy is way too deep under cover. They arrive at the famous Urgis Mountains, and a pretty big group is coming too. Next chapter goes to Holton Walk, a place where the heroes prepare. There's a banquet going on, and Hillian is thanking everyone for the support at this incredible fortress. Pharaoh answers that it's a great pleasure for him to be on this page of history. Then he says, Hillian, kid, you should say a few words. Get everyone fired up. Come on, everyone. Hillian's going to say something. Hillian loves it. He likes attention. He goes, my comrades, my noble heroes and knights, the journey we've waited for has finally reached its final stage. The Demon King provoked our kingdom, but he's afraid of us. He didn't send any monsters, so we're going to invade his castle and end him for having the nerve to take the princess. Everyone shouts, for justice. Meanwhile, Granada is thinking it's just like Barej said. Not only are there not that many heroes, they're not even that strong because they haven't evolved. The only person who's actually useful is Hillian, because he was already strong and had the popularity to attract people. Even so, the last time he went to that tower, it was completely empty. If they show up at full strength, maybe that place falls. It would be good, for example, if he cut off a few heroes' heads. But then he stops and thinks, no, calm down. What am I thinking? If the subjugation works, it's good for me, because then I don't owe that damn Burjay anymore. He decides to stay calm, but then he also might end up dying to Burjay. At the very least, he needs to pass along some information, otherwise he'll be useless. A while later, he says, alright, we've arrived at Hatain Fort, and tomorrow, after we resupply, we'll start climbing the mountains. Burjay tells him, once you leave Hatain, you don't need to contact me anymore, but be careful crossing the snowy mountains, and don't let your guard down. Also, when the tower opens, stay far away from the door. Granada doesn't understand any of that, but right then Hillian shows up. Hey Granada, what are you doing out here, my honest great friend? I'm just getting some air. Is there a problem, Hillian? No? Want a drink? For you, elf wine. Yeah, I'm scared that's poisoned. Hillian says, you look like something's on your mind, my comrade. What's making you nervous? Granada answers, do you think we're really going to beat the Demon King? And the hero says, honestly, he has no idea either. People trust him and follow him. But subjugating a Demon King is still the most dangerous thing in the world. None of the attempts so far have been easy. Granada says, but weren't you the one who killed the Demon King of Lust and absorbed his powers? Compared to that guy, this Demon King who just showed up should be easy. And speaking of killing the Demon King of Lust, tell me your heroic story. Hillian stops and thinks for a second, clearly shaken. Then he smiles, fake as hell, and says, it's nothing. It's because I had incredible comrades. Comrades like you, Granada, who are always fighting for us and taking care of the monsters. I honestly don't know who's being more fake here. He pats him on the shoulder and goes, while I lead, you protect the flank. With our strength together, we're going to win. Granada goes, all right then, sounds good. Everything's gonna be fine. Hillian's standing there with his hand on his hip like, now let's go in. And he's basically trying to drag Granada off for a little pre-battle night. Yeah, no thanks. Meanwhile, he's staring off, thinking to himself, yeah, I had brave comrades, just like you, Elf Granada. And you know something? It couldn't be more obvious. Next morning, we head out, everyone pumped. Long live Hillian. Meanwhile, at the Durgus Mountain Pass, some soldiers are talking. Everybody says this place is scary, but there's nothing here. One guy with a big hammer even asks if the creatures are hibernating. Like there's absolutely nothing scary at all. Until purple liquid drips onto one guy's head. That's when he looks up and sees they're surrounded by ghouls on all sides. Hillian says the bastards showed up and orders everyone into battle formation. The creatures start advancing with smaller beasts on their backs, and there's a massive one coming up behind Hillian. There's no way to retreat. It's like Attack on Titan, pushing past the wall. But Hillian doesn't even care. He calls out like he's Captain Levi and jumps in. He says there's no way some ice giant is stronger than the Demon King. The thing swings at him, but he lands on its hand and the monster throws a punch. Helene climbs up, runs along its arm, activates an aura on his blade, and starts slicing 5, 6, 7 cuts right into it. Then he tells everyone to move fast. People start running. There's an explosion behind them, and okay. They were supposed to run because the thing died and exploded when it hit the ground. The group looks exhausted. One of them goes, seriously, first fight and we already get a giant golem and a whole pack of ghouls. What the hell is this? Now it makes sense why nobody wants to come here. Another one says, when I went on my last mission at the Demon Tower, it wasn't like this. It's crazy that Hillen actually killed that thing. And it's not a lie that he absorbed the powers of the Demon King of Lust, and now Granada's a little uneasy. Maybe this Hillen really does have what it takes to kill the Demon King. Meanwhile, an orc tribe is watching from far away. One of them stands up saying they don't have time to rest. Hillen says he can feel demonic energy. Those guys were subordinates of the Demon King. Then Krudu says, welcome to Urgist, you idiot heroes. Urgist says he's going to push forward now and finish them, but Granada tells them to be careful and wait. He remembers Berja warning him about the snow and he can already tell something's off. Krutu and Birja say together that none of them are making it to the tower. An avalanche starts on the mountain and everyone gets swept away. Granada yells for everyone to run while the protagonist is sitting on his throne saying it's always nice to welcome heroes. Except this time, he's the one doing the hunting. Birja warned Granada about 3 things. First, the snow. Now everyone's trying to recover, crawling out from being buried. Helene says they'll have to stop there for a while, set up camp, and search for anyone who got carried off. The second danger, though, was something Birja didn't even warn Granada about, protecting the camp at night. The orc attack comes in, along with another one of those giants. This one looks like it's made of darkness. Granada's furious, thinking, that damn Demon King didn't tell me about this. Our guy is happy with the pressure. A fight, an avalanche, then a night attack. This is going to wear them out. Their numbers are going to start dropping fast. They've been in the Urgis Mountains for 3 days, and they've already gone from 511 down to 256. They finally reach the highest point, but where's the mountain? Hillen shouts, wait, why didn't he build his tower at the highest point? He's panicking until one of the soldiers behind him says, Hillen, we're giving up. Hillen turns around, hold on, Lord Wharton. What are you saying? Wharton answers, sir, this journey is a failure. It's a shame, but we have to turn back before everyone dies for nothing. 6 days after entering the Urgis Mountains, they find the Demon Tower, but they've dropped from 256 to 52. Everyone's furious, saying this Demon King is a disgrace. He built a tiny tower just to hide. They go to open the door like, let's finish these guys as fast as possible. Easy tower, not many floors. Burgess says he warned Granada to stay away from the door. The moment they try to open it, a bunch of cannons pop out ready to fire. A barrage of light tears through everyone's bodies. From 52 to 1, the protagonist is impressed. That wasn't enough to finish Helene. Helene is actually invading the tower. He's wrecked, but he keeps moving forward, furious, demanding to know what kind of Demon King this is. Nothing about this is normal. Then Granada says, Helene? Helene looks over. Granada, you're alive? Granada says, yeah. I barely avoided that attack. Got lucky, but it's just us 2 now? Helene says, yeah, but it's fine. I'm the hero who killed the last Demon King and absorbed his power. Another Demon King is nothing to me. The 2 of us together are more than enough. Granada goes, that's true, right? Let's go. They reach the 2nd floor, completely empty. 3rd floor, completely empty. Helene is confused. Wait, this place is supposed to be packed with monsters, but there's nobody here. Granada already knows who's waiting. They reach the 4th floor. Helene goes, what kind of tower is this? Nothing on the 2nd, nothing on the 3rd, and the 4th is a forest. Are we even in the Demon King's tower? Then someone approaches and says, it looks like he managed to make it pretty far. Helene looks over and Ernan introduces herself as one of the 4 celestial queens, the one who protects the Demon King. She's the dark spiritualist, and she's going to be his opponent. Even though she's acting confident, Granada and Helene aren't taking her seriously. Helene recognizes her. Princess Ernan, why are you doing this? She looks awkward. I'm not a princess, I'm the dark spiritualist. Now take my evil power. She starts a quadruple elemental summoning. Helene immediately says he knows that elemental magic is something only Princess Ernan can use, so she's clearly under some kind of control. He's thinking orcs, avalanches, night ambushes, a hidden tower, a mana cannon, empty floors, and now the princess. He says he doesn't understand what's happening here. Why is the damn princess trying to save the hero who came to save her? Fine, if that's how it is, he'll destroy everything. But then Berja appears behind him, asking if he really thinks he can do that. A direct explosion, and Berja says, good. At least he gets to see my face once in his life. The famous hero, Hillen Cardiel. Hillen takes a hit and snaps, you bastard, you finally showed up. Hillen thinks, thank God, I need help. Granada's with me. Look, he's behind the Demon King. Perfect chance. He teleports, appears next to Granada, and says, come on, my friend, let's combine our strength. Except he doesn't combine anything. He starts draining Granada's power. And he says, Granada, didn't I tell you? As long as you stayed by my side, there wouldn't be any problem. Granada collapses, and Berja immediately notices the artifact Hillen is using. Hillen reveals it. The Elf Eater. It converts an elf's entire vitality into mana. The only problem is the elf dies right after. But it's fine. Granada was scared from the start for the greater good. Granada, barely hanging on, says, you lying hypocrite. Berja smiles. I like how vile and low you are. That ring that feeds you power, once it comes off, you'll be weak again. Hyllin laughs, true, but I want to see you try it, idiot. Then the protagonist suddenly calls for Gorton, and Hyllin's hand just disappears. I'm just like Hyllin in that moment, stunned, trying to figure out what happened. He didn't sense anything at all. Gorton is behind him saying Hyllin is loud and rude for a human who's supposed to be a hero. Hyllin jumps away, demanding to know where that demon came from. It's a high-ranking creature, and Hyllin has the artifact. He shouldn't have been caught off guard like that. But Burjay is already behind him again, asking where he thinks he's going. Hyllin tries to dodge, but when he looks back, there's a massive dragon staring him down. In that same second, he realizes there's no way out. The protagonist starts charging up a spirit bomb-like blast, saying, "Goodbye." Time for him to take the first beating of his life. The explosion hits dead on. The whole tower gets swallowed in a purple glow. The poor hero is burned to a crisp on the ground. Burgess says he's impressive at least. Hyllin is still barely alive, groaning. The protagonist says, "All right, tie his hands up and throw him in prison. And any humans still alive outside, throw them in prison too." Meanwhile, Granada is dying, saying, "I can see the afterlife, this is the end for me." But the protagonist walks up, gives him energy from a spirit flower, and Granada regenerates instantly. He stands up, shocked. "Wait, I'm completely healed. What happened?" The protagonist gives a little spirit flower to Ernan too, and she thanks him. Ernan realizes the Demon King used something precious on Granada. Then he tells the Lord, "Your cannon worked, so I'll give you permission to destroy the whole tower and do whatever you want. That's it, everyone. Go back to your floors, keep doing your daily tasks," he says and walks off. Granada can't believe it. Even after a fight that intense, the Demon King is totally calm. That really is the Demon King. He sees Ernan thinking and asks what's wrong. She says she actually thinks the Demon King is tired. Then he slams his hand on the ground and falls backward, exhausted. He didn't show weakness because that's forbidden for him. But that damn Hyllin, even weakened and missing a hand, almost tanked the strongest attack he has. That's what it means to be one of the 10 stars, the strongest heroes on the continent. And even though Hyllin was one of them, he was one of the weakest. Burjay can tell the Demon King is spending too many points strengthening the tower and manipulating people's plans, and it's draining him. If Hyllin hadn't fallen for the traps, there's no way he could have won. The plan left him exhausted, stressed, and panicking. And even with Hyllin mentally shaken, showing an opening, and the Demon King throwing everything he had at him, Hyllin still didn't die. Still, either way, he secured a win without following the usual Demon King playbook. Something that didn't happen in the past and almost never happens when the Demon King is discovered and kidnaps the princess. You could call it a success in this life, and now he can see there's a way to change the future. He's gonna get revenge on those bastards. Next scene. Someone's asking what kind of nonsense this is. You're telling me the heroes gave up because they couldn't find the tower? It's probably Draxon at his house. Meanwhile, in the city of Halton, there's a conference going on. Everyone wants to know who's responsible for this failure. Warden says they didn't fail. There's still hope. Hill and Cargill and the other heroes didn't give up. They're still searching for the Demon Tower. But news about what happened on the expedition starts spreading fast across the continent. The king is furious, saying that damn Hill and Bargill was full of himself and ended up being useless. Since he didn't rescue the princess, he should be executed. Louise is furious too, saying she wouldn't just let this go. They have to find that bastard and kill him. The story keeps getting more exaggerated and twisted everywhere. In the city, one man says, "I heard Cargill didn't stand a chance and died right away." Another replies, "Yeah, looks like he couldn't beat that Demon King." And because of that, our protagonist is already at 290,000. The scene cuts to the hero's headquarters. They're calling for Wharton, asking if there's really not a single lie in what he said. He says he swears on his name, he's only telling the truth. The heroes say this is getting serious, but since they still don't know the identity of this Demon King, they need to be careful too. Helene Cargill was one of the 10 stars. He wasn't supposed to die that easily. They'll wait 10 more days for news. If nothing happens, all the heroes on the continent, 4,728 of them, will launch a full-scale attack and wipe this guy out. They go from 0 to 100 real fast. Then the scene switches to the underground prison of our protagonist. He asks if Helene has woken up yet, and compliments how fast he recovered. Helene answers, "Demon King, if you're keeping me alive here, you want something from me, so get to the point." Burgess says, "Oh, nice to see you like talking. Obviously, I want you to become my vassal. I kinda saw that coming." And honestly, poor Helene did too, but he still didn't expect it at all, and asks if he heard wrong. The protagonist is holding a sack of gold and says, "A hero's journey costs a lot, doesn't it? Food for hundreds, security, paperwork, armor, so much stuff. Usually those costs get covered by merchants and nobles, because when the Demon King gets defeated, everyone's life gets better. But when a hero loses, he gets buried in debt forever. That's what happens to all of them, since they have to take investments to fund the expedition. And this time, all the investments were on Helene. So in other words, he's screwed when he goes back to society." Helene flinches and realizes it's hard to admit, but it's true. Even if he gets out of this place the moment he's labeled as a failed hero, he'll be in debt for the rest of his life. He asks how he knows that. Then Granada shows up and says he told him. Helene yells, "Granada, how dare you betray me?" And Granada fires back, "You bastard. You betrayed me first by stealing my life." Birch tells them to calm down and says, "Well, there's no Demon King like me, and that's why you failed. But just like I adapted to what you do, you'll adapt soon enough." That changes completely though, if one of the heroes in this world starts interfering with these guys' plans. He shows an Ormanius orb, and Helene asks what it is. The protagonist says it's a magic tool he uses to monitor his subordinates. The moment someone consumes it, the thing fuses with their brain, and Berger will immediately know if the person has any hostility toward him. On top of that, he can blow the person's brain up with a simple gesture, and the orb has to adapt to the body too, so if the person fails at that stage, they die. Helene says, hold on, I'm a hero. My mental control is insane. Obviously that thing's gonna fail. But Granada says he knows every hero can break their mental barriers whenever they want. Berger says he already knew that. Helene starts going off, telling the damn elf to be ashamed. How can he act like this? With his mouth hanging open, Helene says they're just going to waste a precious magic tool, because he'll never submit. But Berger tells him to shut up and swallow it, literally, and tosses the orb straight into his mouth. What the hell? This really is a demon king who doesn't do things the normal way. Granada thinks Helene is stubborn. He's surrounded by aura, and it looks like he's resisting. But Berger says, yeah, right, this guy is an extremely greedy human. He betrayed his comrades and treated everyone like they were disposable because of money. No way he'd sacrifice himself just to make the item fail. And that's it. Helene is now the king's vassal. Next scene, Gordon says it's nice having a vassal like that, but he owes 100,000 to the armies. He's not going to be that useful. And there's only 2,000 left from the last exchanges. Berger says the message he's waiting for will arrive soon. Gordon asks who it's from. Berger says the Demon King's meeting is coming up, the once-a-year gathering known as the Union of Towers. Berger never attended before because he always thought Demon Kings helping each other was disgusting. But now he's excited, because the ones who've had towers in this world for a long time are definitely loaded with gold and treasure. Gordon shouts, how are you going to trade points for money? But that's what he would have said before. Now he knows Berger must have a reason. If they'd followed the usual Demon King playbook, they would have died for sure. And right then he announces that an invitation to the Union of Towers has arrived. Berger smiles and stands up saying, let's go. Time for me to scam all the old-timers. The scene switches to the Tower of Lies, on the 13th floor in the Demon King's room. Berger walks in saying he isn't late, but everyone's already there. He's in a suit, looking sharp, asking if they have something to discuss with him. Draxen, basically radiating pure hatred. Finally, a demon girl, Reyna Seldhin, steps forward. She's been wanting to meet the person everyone's been talking about. She's from the Ice Demon race. Then a Cyclops named Ugar says this must be the kid who insulted the bosses. And a human named Jason of unknown race, known as the Demon King of Lies, welcomes Berger. If I had to bet, I'd say this guy is a hero in disguise. That's what I think anyway. Berger says, what a bunch of idiots. You formed an alliance, aren't you ashamed to call yourselves Demon Kings? Ugar slams the table and calls him the idiot. How is the kid who just showed up trying to interfere with what they're doing? The protagonist provoked them on purpose, just to find out who's actually behind the plans in this place. And clearly it isn't this human. Ugar looks ready to start a fight, and the protagonist says he's going to regret it, because he's the only elite one there. But then someone starts clapping, and everyone goes quiet. It's Jason, saying, Ugar, Berger, this is a time for cooperation, so let's not waste it. The protagonist is impressed. Jason erased both of their killing intent in a second. Was that Jason's power, or the tower's power? Berger says fine and walks to his chair, while Jason thanks everyone for understanding the situation they're in. Jason says, alright, let's start the meeting. Everyone say what you're thinking. Berger just says, it looks like this meeting won't be anything special. Then Draxen says he has something to say since nobody else is opening their mouth. Where's the damn hero Helene Cargill? Berger goes quiet and repeats, Helene Cargill. The scene cuts to two girls asking the same question. On the left is the Maid of the Beast guys, and on the right is the Maid of the Human of Lies. They're asking Gordon and he says he isn't sure. Helene didn't even make it to the tower. He must still be wandering around Urge. The human orcs there says, don't be ridiculous. He'd noticed the tower from far away. But Gordon says their case is different. Everything he's saying is obviously what Berger told him to say. Since Helene is going to be used as a spy, keeping it secret is the most important thing. Gordon thinks he has no choice but to obey. But then he suddenly starts yelling that damn Demon King is a disaster who never listens to anyone. Every time Berger wants to do anything, it causes a million problems. And he's ranting while also feeling great because he finally gets to vent. The people around him are like, yeah, but Demon Kings are like that. They're all weird. The girls start talking about their own problems too, and Gordon realizes all he really needed was emotional support. Back at the meeting, the orc asks, you think I'm going to believe that? Berger says yes. The human shouts, wait, are you telling me Helene Cargill didn't reach your tower because you didn't build it on top of a mountain? Berger says it's true. He isn't obligated to build his tower anywhere specific, but Jason isn't stupid, and says then hold on, heroes are hunting your tower and you're here without defending it. In the academy you must have learned that if they take your tower you'll be marked forever. Especially you, Berger. You finished at the top of the class. The protagonist says, don't worry about my tower, I've got my own way of protecting it. And he's already starting to hate Jason. Jason smiles and says, alright then, if you say it's fine I won't investigate. Draxen is yelling, asking if he thinks Archduke Arquino will accept something like that. The protagonist says he doesn't care what the old man says. He thinks he can lie as much as he wants there. They have no way to verify it. Even if it makes him look more suspicious, that's still better than getting exposed. Still, if it were me, I'd be worried. You're in the Tower of Lies. Feels like the name might have something to do with people not telling the truth. Berger tells himself to stay focused on his goal, getting 100,000 gold. The conversation between Jason and Ugar continues. Clearly there's some kind of hierarchy, and it's obvious Jason is at the top. Berger just listens, trying to pick up information, especially who the demon kings with low points are. And this gorgeous light-eyed girl won't stop staring at the demon boy. A while later, we get a romantic little meetup between two demons. He asks what's up, and she says nothing needs to be hidden. Since the moment she heard about him, she's wanted to have this conversation. He asks why, and she turns and says she agrees with some of his points. He's surprised because he doesn't remember Reina being that kind of person in his past life. She says she doesn't hate the Demon King's standards as much as he does, and she even follows some of them. But she truly believes demons need to be more flexible, especially in Iran, and that's why she wanted to meet him. Also, she knew it would be more productive to talk with him alone. He gets a little full of himself and says, "So, what'd you think of me?" She says he's not that bad. Then she even says he's more handsome than she imagined. Okay, so we've got flirting happening out of nowhere, and she already hands over her WhatsApp, meaning a personal communication pearl for message transmissions. As long as he doesn't insult the Demon King's standards, he can count on her. She finally found someone to talk to and doesn't want him to die too fast. The protagonist asks, "And the Demon King of Lies, what do you think about him?" She says you can't read him at all. He's clearly better than those two idiots. She walks off and he thinks he still can't trust her, but it was definitely an unexpected win from this trip. Back at the tower on the first floor, everyone's just doing their thing. Erna cooks all day and the little dwarf has fun building his machines. He eats the cookies she made specially, saying even if they're bad, he'll say they're good to make her happy. But he's shocked because they taste amazing. He's basically in heaven, blushing hard while she asks what he thinks. He says there's no escaping it. She made something incredible. She says she added some spirit seeds to make them taste better. The dwarf is stunned. Why are you wasting something that valuable just to make cookies? She says it's to keep them close to each other in the future. Looks like they won't see each other for a long time. He says yeah, that makes sense. She asks if Granada will like them. The dwarf says probably even more than he does. She asks if the Demon King will like them too, but she's bright red and the dwarf finds it kind of odd. When the protagonist comes back to the room, everyone's gone. The King of Lies asks if the boy wants tea and says he has something to talk about. He stares and says he knows very well that Berger needs human money. The protagonist is stunned and asks what he means, but his real worry is how that information leaked. Jason says, "Friend, pretending won't do you any good here. Draxon told me, so let's not waste time with stupid games." He throws down a pile of treasure and says, "Let's make a deal. Demonic energy for human money." Berger asks what his intention is. Jason says, "What do you mean by that, Berger? I'm on your side. We'll both come out ahead, and we'll both get what we want." Looks like it worked because now we're on the first floor with bag after bag after bag of gold. The protagonist says, "Go on, Helene. Take 100,000 and get out." Helene can't believe it. "You actually got all that money." The protagonist says yes, but he needs to hide it. He has to avoid anyone finding out where the money came from, because it'll be bad for both of them. For Berger, it's especially awful, because it would show where his money went, and then Jason would have leverage over him, especially since Berger has no idea what Jason is planning. Then the protagonist says the rest of Helene's knights have all become Black Knights too. The plan is to use them to make even more money, and they'll follow him for a while. The knights who came to kill him can't believe they made it this far and are now going to be used to help him. Obviously, the contract was forced and nobody resisted. Helene thinks for a moment and asks, "Well, my party's alive, and it wasn't a total failure since I'll pay off my debts. Doesn't that mean I'll keep working as a hero?" He's already panting like, "Hey Berger, when you really think about it, it wasn't even that bad for me. I'm actually looking forward to working with this business partner." But the main guy just shows him he could crush his brain in a second. The guy drops to the floor, writhing, and Berger says he needs to make something clear. They're not partners. One is the slave and the other is the master. His little buddies are all standing there biting their nails in the corner. Hillen says he didn't expect him to be that cruel. Berger just answers that he's not asking for genuine loyalty. Now get going and do what you're told. Before that though, Ernan calls out to him and asks him to deliver a letter to her younger sister, Helena. The guy goes, "Wait, are you talking about the 13th princess? It's not impossible, but why are you siding with the Demon King? She just says she has zero intention of going back to the kingdom, and a hero with his status should know the royal family's secrets." Helene stops and thinks so the rumors really were true. If that was the case, he could kind of understand why. Sometime later, the tower is emptier. Gordon, though, wants to know if the hero is really going to follow orders. Berger says Helene isn't so pathetic that he only cares about money. There's something else people care about, something they get even more obsessed with. A hero like him probably doesn't want honor. He wants popularity. He's all cheerful, giving some hyped-up speech. And Berger knows someone like that. Someone who wants attention and always stays in the spotlight is even easier to control. And he's also the best kind of spy they can keep an eye on. So the orb is going to show what Helene sees? Not sure. But Gordon is impressed. Apparently Berger studied humans on a level Gordon can't even imagine. And Berger says if a human hero destroys society from the inside out as the Demon King's vassal, you'd love that too, wouldn't you? Gordon gives a little grin and says, "Definitely." When someone knocks on the door, it's Ernan, bringing some cookies for him to try. Berger warns her that if they're bad, she's getting thrown in prison for a month for leaving her floor and wasting important supplies to make them. He takes a bite, saying a human dessert has to be awful, but then he feels something, and she's already imagining he's about to have that same blissed-out reaction the dwarf had. Instead, the main guy grips the throne and says, "Not bad for a human." She's stunned. He handled it. Then he asks, "Did you put the spirit flower in the cookies?" She says of course, and she's happy he noticed. Then he goes, "Then something's off. You're paying me back the reward you earned. You must want something." And she's just standing there smiling, saying he figured it out. Back with Hillen's group, after talking with the orcs, they came down the mountain and said goodbye to Granada. The two of them flip each other off. Right after that, Granada goes and beats up all the mercenaries, because those idiots vanished the moment the expedition showed up. Every single one of them bailed. One of them is like, "Look, I'm here to make money. You think I'm staying to fight on a mountain where every hero dies?" Granada is beating everyone down until someone calls his name. He turns around and it's the hero Kaeda, saying she finally found him. She couldn't join the hero's last journey because of certain circumstances, but she came now to take advantage of the chance. She wants to join them. Granada's like, sure, but his friends are already telling him to accept and make her pay for today's beer. He beats everyone up again, then says thanks for the drinks, but asks why she's here. The hero journey is already over. Helene and the others left. Suddenly she steps right up to him and apologizes for being rude, but she wants him to tell her why they failed. Granada says it's fine, there are some things Berja allowed him to say. After a while he goes, "So yeah, that's how it happened." She's standing there in shock, not believing it. The king's tower isn't on top of the mountain. "Well, if that's the case, I don't have any reason to stay here. Thanks for your valuable time. Keep these coins as a token of gratitude." She puts her helmet on and walks out. One of the mercenaries says, "Yeah, just looking at her, you can tell she doesn't get how hard the world is. She's a hero who just started out. If she doesn't get stabbed in the back by her own friends, she should consider herself lucky." And his mouth really is sharp, because the second she leaves the bar and starts walking, 3 other armored guys pass by. Granada sees it, follows them, and soon finds her surrounded. They're saying, "Come on, you're coming back now, your highness? Your fiancé is waiting." She says she refuses. She wants to live as a hero. Granada, hiding nearby, realizes she must be a princess if these guys are guarding her. But whatever, if it's royal business, that's their problem. Then a sword presses against his neck and the guy demands to know who he is and why he was spying. What suspicious magic is he using? Granada knows that if they find out this is Demon King power, he's done. The knight says if he doesn't say right now whether he's from another kingdom or a spy, he's not leaving alive. Granada has no idea what to do, so it doesn't blow back on him or Berger. An explosion goes off in the alley, and he jumps out yelling that he's an assassin. Granada takes off running, trying to get away. One of the knights says he'll protect the princess, while Granada knows he's the only elf in the city. If he uses any elf power, he'll be exposed. The problem is he can't guarantee he'll get out alive otherwise. They're all shielding the princess. Granada decides that even if he gets exposed, he has to use his powers. And then Berger shows up and asks why he's late. A black and purple flame flashes by. Berger arrives, asking if this is why it took so long. Granada goes, "Are you not seeing the situation I'm in?" Berger tells him to stop being dramatic. This little experiment is nothing for an elf. The knights are in shock. A demon king is here. He must have come to kidnap her highness, and she's telling them not to worry about her. This is their chance to kill the demon king. Berger, confused, asks, "Hold on. She's a princess?" The knights say, "Stop lying, that's why you came." Granada then says, "Yeah, she really is a princess, and you're not here for that?" Berger says no, he was just passing through to finish a task, and ran into this mess by coincidence. They call him a liar, a filthy demon, but rewind a bit. Back when he asked Ernan what she wanted, she says she wants Senail powder. Apparently it's used to form spirit contracts. Hundreds of years ago, an elf named Senail made contact with the human kingdom. The king ordered her to develop a supply that could form contracts between humans and spirits, the way elves can. That's how the powder was created. Bergia says, "With your talent, you shouldn't need that." She says he's overestimating her. First, there's barely any mana in this tower. Second, she's not an elf, so she needs it. Bergius asks, "You're trying to form a contract with a high-ranking spirit, aren't you?" She says maybe just a tiny spirit. Bergia knows that in the previous life at 27, she formed a contract with her first high-ranked spirit. When people found out, the whole continent went crazy, because it's insanely rare for any human. But now she's thinking of doing it 7 years earlier. He finds it weird she hasn't been in the tower long. Did it really affect her that much already? Still, if the tower gets stronger, he gets stronger too. So he says fine, thanks for the food, and he's leaving. Back to the fight. He says he has his own circumstances, so they need to end this fast. Poor Kaidi flinches and the whole place explodes, but he's impressed. She really was a hero because she protected everyone with her aura. She says yes, she has the aura created to wipe out the demon race. He's her natural enemy, and he's going to die for leaving that suffocating palace. She immediately throws out a crescent moon spiral slash, an instant aura technique that tears through any enemy. In that moment, she wants to become a hero and kill the Demon King, because she was sold off to some old man from another region, and he was excited to try out that youth. Obviously, she said no way she's living with that creep. Even if she's a princess with no value, she won't accept that life. That's why she trained day and night non-stop without getting tired. If she defeats the Demon King here, she'll be recognized as a hero, and she'll be free forever from her father's orders. She'll decide who she marries. Then Bergie catches her attack and crushes it with one hand, saying it's not that big a deal. In that moment, the girl's hope shatters. And he asks, if you're a hero, you're not going to die from this, are you? That's when she understands the difference between a demon king and everyone else. Then he says a princess always has more uses than people think. She begs them to wait. The knights tell her to be careful. But it's over. The whole place gets blown apart. Everyone's dead, turned into smoke on the ground. The entire city gets completely vaporized, leaving a crater. People are screaming for mages and healers, trying to understand why the Demon King attacked out of nowhere. Was it the creature that lives in the Urgrus Mountains? Speaking of the mountains, we're back there, and poor Kade is lying in his cell. Ernan thought this was what he meant, the Senial thing, and asks if this is it. He says, no, that's Princess Kade of the Ninth Empire, I think. From now on, she's going to live with you on the 4th floor, so treat her wounds. Ernan doesn't like it. She says, fine. But why did he suddenly bring in another princess? He just says he saw her on the way and captured her. To get more demonic energy points, he needs to kidnap new princesses once in a while. Demon King stuff. She asks what demonic energy points are. He starts, well, they're points for Mita, and then he realizes, wait, why am I telling her all this? He says, it's nothing important, go help that girl. I'm gonna go get your Senial powder. And he's thinking, damn it, he almost forgot this princess is just a prisoner. News that a new princess was captured spreads across the whole continent fast. And we're back at the hero's headquarters. Hero Hillen Cargill. Everything you're saying is true? He says yes, it's hard to admit, but he couldn't find that guy's tower, and he takes responsibility for all of it. A man says, it's fine, don't worry. Carrying the weight of failure is part of a hero's journey too. Now who will be the next hero to step forward? Helene thanks him, but someone else says, while your journey failed, another princess has already been kidnapped. Now her empire says we have to launch a new attack. I want to hear your opinion since you went through Urgest. Helene says, I feel bad for the 9th princess, but even I couldn't find that tower. Instead of sending a hero assault immediately, I think the priority should be scouting its location first. Once we know where it is, subduing it will be easy. Also, I get the feeling that if the Demon King trusted his own strength, he wouldn't hide his tower. All the heroes are like, yeah, that makes sense, that's logical. He might be breaking the rules Demon Kings usually follow, but he seems weak and cowardly. Everyone agrees, this Demon King must be weak. The human at the main panel says, thanks to Hilling Cargill's information, we understand it's not a good time to send the main assault. First, we must confirm the tower's location. Hilling says, understood, and leaves. Thinking, so this is what you wanted, Demon King. Use my freedom to block the first journey. I bought you plenty of time. The rest is on you. Gordon passes all this information to Berja, who's impressed the heroes were already ready to launch a full-scale attack. If it weren't for Cargill, this would have gone badly. Making that guy his vassal was the best choice. Now he has both Granada and Helene working outside, and thanks to that princess he found wandering around, he's gaining even more points. If he can use the Armanis orb on her, maybe it'll be possible to draw out her true potential. Logar is forging the tower again and restructuring everything, and the dwarves are taking control of Urgest. Soon Princess Ernan will form a contract with a high-level spirit too. No random hero journey is going to have the guts or the chance to get through here. The tower is going to become terrifyingly strong. Only then will he be able to start focusing on the outside world and begin his real revenge against those damn heroes who killed him. But to do that, we're heading to another city, because now he needs Senil Dust, the place with the most mages and heroes in the world, the Magitech city called Amur. The only problem is getting what he needs without being discovered. So he moves into a little shop in a kind of rundown part of the city, in what people say is one of the best magic markets in the world. Some guy is reading the newspaper saying, the 9th princess was captured and the hero's journey went wrong. What's going on? The Heroes Guild is useless. The door opens and the greeter asks what he's looking for. Berger says he wants Senil Dust, while thinking this place looks even more busted than he expected. In theory, this is the main hub of magic in the world. All the heroes, mages, and alchemists gather there. That's a big problem, because even if he hides all his demonic energy, there are still risks. That's why he chose a shop that's empty and unknown. And then the totally not suspicious seller says, sir, you're really lucky. How did you walk into the perfect shop to buy that for the low price of 1 coin? The protagonist goes, shut up. That's expensive as hell. And besides, Senil Dust is supposed to be green, so why is this one purple? The guy says, oh, don't worry, it's a powder, a new product we developed. I have to tell you, not many people know about it. It was developed confidentially, so the market isn't really informed yet. It's a very rare item. But I'll warn you right now, if you don't buy it, it's going to sell out. He's thinking, this guy's dressed pretty fancy. Time to blow up his wallet. Berger realizes, this guy noticed I'm here for some weird reason. Should I just kill him now? But right then, the door opens again. Someone says, hey, you should have come to this busted shopping area first. And look who's right there, Louise under her helmet. She's furious, saying, Logar, you bastard, because of that damn thing, I have to come here. Then the little dwarf walks in. Hey sir, I'm looking for a certain person. The protagonist is standing there watching. It's beyond obvious this woman is Louise. The seller says, Lady Dwarf, I know what you're looking for, but I have a certain illness that makes me forget things, unless I sell something. Louise immediately puts a knife to his throat and tells him he clearly doesn't understand the situation. He warns her that killing people in the capital is forbidden, but since she's going to threaten him, how about she at least buys something? She asks if he's lost his mind, and he says he'll only answer if she buys something. She stops and starts laughing, saying the bastard is funny. Fine then, go on, show me what you've got for sale. He tells her he'll sell her artiship powder, the item that strengthens any dwarf. He's noticing it's the exact same powder he was selling earlier. Louise says, all right, give me that already, and tosses him another gold coin. She says she's looking for the dwarf named Loger. He says, well, I've never heard that name, but I know a shop over by the Stag in the middle of the city that might help you. It's where all the blacksmiths in the country visit, so maybe someone there knows about him. Louise thanks him and walks out. The protagonist then says, damn kid, not bad. You sold that trash for 3 gold coins? The guy replies, thanks for not saying anything, but you're still here so you're interested. Yeah? I can teach you a little secret for 10 coins. The protagonist realizes what a pushy scammer, and that makes him like the guy. Then he says, go to the Golden Merchants Guild and say, I was sent by the mountain. They'll take you in. The guy turns around, hold on, you're connected to the Golden Merchants, so why are you sending me there? Those people are about to go bankrupt. Me with the bright future I've got, I shouldn't go to some dump like that. The protagonist says, if I were you, I would. Because the person you scammed was Louise Welfs. He drops the bottle. Louise of the Dwarves? And the protagonist says, go now. Go to the Moon Merchants Guild so you don't die. Your salary will be 1 gold coin a month. If you refuse, I'll bring Louise back here right now. The guy says, no, please. Don't do that. Then he suddenly changes his expression and goes, that's what you thought I was going to say, right? For God's sake, you're trying to scam me. Bring her here right now. Like the princess would leave her place and show up out here in the middle of nowhere. The protagonist says, all right then, I'll go get her. She comes back in pure rage and the scene cuts to outside with him thanking her. The protagonist is impressed. Even this failing place sells senile dust. This really is some city. But then she tells him to stop. She says, I want to thank you. Because of you, I managed to get my money back. The protagonist asks, what did you do to the shopkeeper? She says he got lucky he was from another country, so she only gave him a small beating. Berger notices she's stressed out like always. He thinks for a moment and says, wait, I heard you're looking for this Loger, right? What is he, a blacksmith? Louise snaps, wait, have you heard a name like that? He shows her the item and says, is this object connected to him? One of the dwarves, hey, this is one of the items Loger made early in his career. Then the protagonist says, 2 months ago I found a weird dwarf in the middle of the Ormuth forest. I shared my food with him because he looked like he was starving. He thanked me, gave me this ring and said he used to be a master alchemist, a blacksmith. I don't really know, but I didn't believe him. That's going to mess up her mission. She says, you're incredible. I wish I could spend 5 nights and days drinking with you. But here, take this crest. It'll let you trade it for an amazing item in the dwarves' city. He walks away while she says she'll call her father, that they've got a place to hunt. She already knows where that damn Loger is. Watching her leave, Berger thinks that sometimes he forgets how many people are moving around in this world because he's so busy managing that tower. Then he remembers that Draxen is about to get the heart of a certain summoned beast, which will give him insane power. He thinks he wants to send Louise to face Draxen, because he knows that with the grade 1 equipment she has, and if she's actually trained, it'll be very hard to beat her. He urgently needs to get stronger. That's exactly it. He's sending Louise to Ormuth so she'll destroy the beast tower. While they're killing each other, Berger will be the one to find the summoned beast's heart. Rena still hasn't sent a message. He misses her. Anyway, the protagonist explains that after fusing the human core, the tower gained 2 functions. One was remote use and the other was item transfer. He tells Gordon that something came up and he'll have to leave the tower for a while. Gordon is supposed to deliver those 10 sentinel powders to Ernan, since he promised them to her. She's already happy, saying, wow, this is extremely high quality, looks like you went to the mage's kingdom. And Gordon says it's obviously high quality. The Demon King went to get it personally, so she has to use it carefully. While she's all happy, Kata is still in the dungeon trying to meditate. Every now and then she goes to spar with Gordon, which helps her practice swordsmanship. On top of that, he spent 10,000 points to build a hellforge on the first floor for someone. He's thrilled, saying he's never seen a furnace like that, a demonic furnace. This thing is so incredible, it can even create living things. He'll make the best of the best that the Demon King needs. Also, the orcs are fighting among themselves and have unified 3 tribes, and the army is getting bigger and bigger. He tells Gordon, looks like everything's going well. Keep taking care of the tower until I get back. Gordon says, you can count on me. I won't let you down. The protagonist notices all these functions are working really well. He can manage everything from far away. Now it's time to contact Helene, who says, you hearing me, demon? Control of the Golden Moon Merchants is complete. From now on, there'll be a guild run by the Black Knights and your mages. Their morale is going up because one of the 10 stars is helping them now. And it was good, because he confirmed that one failure isn't enough to destroy the reputation of one of the top 10. Then he says to contact Granada. He's supposed to take all the gold the Golden Moon Merchants make and buy every elf slave on the entire continent. For negotiations, he's sending a new friend named Jetson, a guy who likes to bargain. He'll help a lot. Helene asks if that guy is a con artist, and he says yes, exactly. That's why if he doesn't show up within a month, an assassin will kill him. The poor guy's shop was completely destroyed. In another city, the guy is in shock. Wait, you want to buy all my people? It's Granada, who got the news and says, all right then, I'll gather as many as possible. Granada knows, either way, I'm kind of saving my race from being enslaved. But at the same time, I'm taking everyone into the Demon King's hands. His plan must be to use everyone like me as spies. and now he doesn't know why Berger deliberately gave him this mission. The people practicing swordsmanship want to know, aren't you learning elf swordsmanship? And the guy answers, I don't know. Just keep swinging the sword, because every time this guy says he's 100 years old, we don't say anything. But the guy on the left says, Captain, don't you think he looks kind of worn out? If we manage to beat him, we could take his position or get out of here. They're going clink, 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 trying to make a move, while Granada is just thinking about Berger's plans. He comes to the conclusion that in the end, suffering as a slave under humans was way worse. Being under the Demon King is better. He stretches his hand to the side and activates a spell, and they freak out. Everyone gets restrained and they apologize, saying, Captain, we dreamed we could escape. Then Granada asks Helene what the Demon King is doing. Helene says it looks like he's going to look for a treasure or something like that. We're in the Ormoth forest, and Louise is walking through it, furious. The dwarf tells her, the King of Ormoth told us to pull our troops out right now, but she says she's not leaving until she finds that bastard. The guy says it's better to give up, they already explored everything. She says no, they didn't explore everything. There's one place they haven't gone yet, Beast Mountain. The human says she must be going crazy. Beast Mountain is the territory of the Demon Beast King. She says she doesn't care. They can't touch her anyway, because if they lay a finger on the princess of the dwarves, they'll go to war with the entire continent, since everyone uses weapons made by her race. 200 years ago, a certain Demon King messed with the prince of the dwarves. Right after that, an unstoppable subjugation happened, and he was killed. The dwarf says, but miss, Logre might not even be here. That guy could have lied to you. She answers that at the same time he might not be there. He also might be. So that's the order. They're moving forward. Meanwhile, at the Demon King's tower, someone arrives. Demon King, we have a problem. Princess Louise of the Dwarf Kingdom is coming here for some reason. Draxon is confused. Why is that lunatic here? Did she find out about the beast heart and come to steal it? No, he's sure he secured it perfectly. A ridiculous amount of pure mana resting under that volcano, inside the magma. When he absorbs that power, he'll become the strongest of all. The excavation is in its final stages, so why is she showing up right now? He says, stop her immediately. She can't get close. But at the same time, under no circumstances can we kill her or let her get seriously hurt. The servant says that's obviously going to be pretty difficult. The scene goes back to Louise, with someone asking if she's trying to die. It's a huge muscular guy who looks more human than demon, saying this is a Demon King's territory, so entry is forbidden. He knows the palace must have already warned her. That guy is Max Ormoth, the second prince. But Louise says nobody can touch her, so he should move aside, because she's not leaving until she finds Logre. But then he laughs and says dwarves really are stupid. In the war 100 years ago, the kingdom of Jespini, which was close to the Demon King's castle, made a fortune selling supplies to the heroes. That same kingdom used that money to make a ridiculous amount of profit and turn the whole thing into a massive empire. If she dies here, maybe everything will happen exactly like it did in the past. Their kingdom will indirectly benefit again. Louise realizes the guy doesn't look like he's joking. Then he charges in, saying that's enough. It's time for them to cash in on this. The knights start closing in on Louise while they shout that all of this is for the Demon King's prosperity. Louise gets ready and says, those idiots are all going to die. Then the scene cuts back to Draxon, with his servant warning him that Louise needs to die. He panics, saying they can't do that. No way. If those Ormoth bastards kill her, they'll end up blaming him, the Demon King, and then a full-scale war will break out. They'll get attacked, and it'll ruin him. Ah, got it. The ones they sent are the forest people, so it's not necessarily connected to the Demon King. So he immediately orders all his demons to go kill those people. And the scene returns to the forest, with those Amazon-looking fighters throwing spears straight into everyone's chests. The dwarf soldiers, poor things, don't stand a chance. They're getting wiped out. They raise a Spartan-style shield wall, and Louise is just standing there in shock. The dwarf next to her tries to warn her that those people have way too much of an advantage in this terrain. They never had a chance to fight head-on. The moment he opened a path, she should have run. She's furious, saying this is so damn frustrating. She just wanted to kill everyone. But he tells her to calm down. Meanwhile, she looks through a gap in the shields, and the guy is mocking them, calling them ridiculous for doing that turtle formation. But in the end, he says they're all going to die in a single attack. He throws his arm back, summoning a purple aura. But right then, he senses demonic energy showing up. Looks like the Demon King's subordinates have arrived. Someone standing near him says an Ormoth attack wasn't part of the plan. Humans really were a pain. The two of them look back and realize it isn't the Beast Demon King. It's Berger, but he's wearing that thing that hides his face. And he says that today, unfortunately, the Prince of Ormoth has to die. Immediately, the forest fighters start yelling to kill the princess while he holds this guy off. They thank him and rush in, but then he feels something coming from the side. It's Louise with her aura activated, blasting through people, demanding how that bastard has the nerve to look away in a fight with her. He's shocked she's way too fast for a dwarf. He decides he has to kill the princess first, but then he feels an aura coming from behind. Whoever that Demon King is, it's like he's paralyzing him with sheer power. While he's suppressed, Louise swings her axe with zero hesitation right through the middle of his chest, and the prince gets absolutely sliced up. The kid is down, and now everyone is attacking the princess, asking how she dares attack the prince like that. She tells them to come at her if they've got a problem, because she'll send all of them to join him. Then the dwarves break out of the turtle formation, pull out their crossbows, and start firing up at the targets above. The plan worked out fine. It's enough to keep Louise from dying. Now it's time for that person to fall into the trap. 5 minutes earlier at the Beast Tower, Draxon felt demonic energy. His servant looked confused. He says he knew it. Hold on, there's someone here who isn't his vassal. Some other demon king sent someone into his territory. And with energy at that level, it had to be an elite demon, or even someone higher rank. A fight is already happening between the Prince of Ormoth and the Dwarf Princess, and now someone else has joined in. The timing of the intrusion is way too perfect. He needs to understand what's going on. He arrives and sees everyone dead, and asks if they got the princess, and where the demon who invaded is. One of them apologizes, saying that when they arrived, the princess had already been surrounded by Ormoth soldiers. Draxon is furious. He thinks the princess is already dead and was taken away, which is why he can't find her. Meaning a war is going to happen just like what happened 200 years ago. His wolf is saying the princess was surrounded. They tried to help, but he's thinking that while we're seeing that the princess actually crushed everyone. Okay, so the wolf apologizes. Unfortunately, they couldn't save her because she killed them all. Draxon snaps, basically like, don't mess with him. Stop confusing him. The others step closer and say the Prince of Ormoth was killed by her. So what are they going to do about the rest of the Ormoth people still there? Draxon knows that if he kills all the Ormoth soldiers, the dwarf princess will pin the prince's death on him. It would be a good chance to gain demon points. But killing a prince is totally different from kidnapping. So he says leave everyone alive. Don't kill them, because I'll be the one who gets blamed. Now tell me who was the demon that invaded my territory. They reveal they still haven't found anything, and Draxon is pissed, calling them pathetic. But he accepts that if it was a high-ranking demon specialized in hiding, there's no way they'd find him. So he activates ultra-sensory amplification, a kind of detection that lets him find even traces of magic that pass through, and immediately he sees a strange trail from a demon he doesn't recognize. That bastard probably went after the dwarf princess. But then he notices the energy was heading toward the mountain. He asks which direction the princess went, and all the wolves point to the right. In the same second, Draxon explodes forward in rage, wanting to know who this demon king is. Some bastard used the prince and the princess to lure him away from the volcano. And he knows a higher-ranked demon, or a demon king who came all the way there, can only be after one thing: the heart of the beast summoning. And there's Burgess staring at it, saying it really wasn't normal magma. You could feel the potential and aura from far away. And no matter how tough Draxon is, jumping in there is impossible. That's why they've secretly been working on a construction project to drain the lava. But for Burgess, it's completely different, since he has black dragon scales that won't melt even in lava. What he didn't see was Kellogg's coming in from behind, boiling hot and landing a clean hit. Or actually no, because Burgess just blocked it. And he says it was obvious a high-ranked demon like him would notice. But since Kellogg wants to get close, fine, let's go together. And he throws himself into the lava. The human instantly turns into nothing but a skeleton. Burgess remembers that when Draxon absorbed this, his regeneration became insane. And now it makes sense why the beast he absorbed was the body of a phoenix. When Burgess was at the Demon King Academy, he studied whether they really existed, and found out it was true, beings as rare as gods, a life form that could destroy any dimension it existed in. And any Demon King in history who managed to absorb one had their name carved into legend. And all he can say in that moment is, "Thank you, Draxon. Thanks to your absorption in your past life, he's here now." The only power he truly envied, he can finally put to good use. His body starts to glow. And at that exact moment, Draxon is running through the forest, desperate to know who found the phoenix. Was it Burgess? But that's impossible. Burgess wouldn't benefit from it, and besides, he just got here. A newbie like him wouldn't have that information. So it had to be some screw-up from Draxon's security team that let the info leak. The bears are up ahead. "Hey Demon King, what brings you here?" But he blows past without even greeting them, knocks everyone aside and keeps sprinting, wondering if it was Reyna, if it was Ugar. He's sure the plan is way too complex to be Ugar. And the phoenix is a fire element creature, so Reyna obviously couldn't absorb it. It'd basically be poison. He's sure it has to be some bastard. He arrives yelling, asking if the beast is okay. Everyone says yes. It seems calm. The only weird thing is that a tiger jumped in there, but they don't know if it's alive. Draxon wants to jump in, but the bears grab him and tell him to stop right now. He'll die just like that guy. But Draxon warns them someone is trying to steal the phoenix. Before he can finish, a huge amount of lava starts rising. Draxon can't believe it. From the city, from the forest, from the protagonist base, Granada. Everyone saw it, even Ernan. While Draxon screams, thinking it's Jason, a gigantic phoenix spreads its wings, covering the entire continent. The next chapter starts off on the edge of the forest, with someone waking up and wondering where he is. He tried to absorb part of the phoenix's corpse and put it back, so nobody would know it was him and everything would look untouched. But it got absorbed into his body instantly, and he got ejected from inside, thrown far away. He's a demon king and he got a new hair color. He's totally naked. No, seriously? Drawing a girl like that in the middle of the forest? Come on, artist. This has to be a woman drawing this, no way. The protagonist says he doesn't feel like himself. It's this weird, unfamiliar sensation. Then he looks in a mirror and sees he's a redhead now. Lost all his dark boy swagger. Back at the Ormoth Palace, the princess, that sneaky little princess tells everyone the Prince of Ormoth tried to save her, but they were killed by the Demon King. The king on the throne says that's enough. He raised his son to be a warrior. Luis thanks him, saying that because he was a warrior, dying on the battlefield was an honor. But the king slams the throne and basically tells her to shove that honor where the sun doesn't shine. He orders them to call all the Hero Guild members and prepare an expedition to destroy the Beast Demon King's tower. The scene cuts to Helene, who's now kind of confused. "Who the hell are you?" he asks the Demon King. Berja just says, "It's me, your master, idiot. I look different. Now hurry up and give me the info." Helene says the King of Ormoth is requesting a hero expedition, and apparently Captain Rosal Chart is joining. She's one of the top 10 heroes, a battle mage specialized in flame magic, and it looks like the vice captain is also one of the top 10 heroes, Palavir Zerode, someone who reached the top through pure martial mastery. And considering they're sending 2 from the top 10, the goal is obvious: wipe out that tower. On top of that, there are 200 heroes as well. The protagonist is impressed. They're sending way more than he expected. But Berja, on the other hand, is impressed, and also feels like someone doesn't want the Beast Demon King to die, because otherwise they'd send a lot more. Why don't they want him dead? That's what makes him hesitate. Destroying a Demon King's tower in theory should be the goal. It's full of treasure, rare items, and even a Demon King's corpse is worth a lot. If they're launching an attack without using their full power, it's because the tower falling is the last thing they want. Even something that looks simple is showing there are multiple conflicts underneath. Human society really was complicated. So Berja says, "Hey Helene, you're joining this expedition too. I'll tell you the Beast Demon King's weaknesses and you'll be the one to kill him. Then when you absorb the Demon King's powers, you'll be the hero who's killed 2 Demon Kings. It'll be even easier to earn the humans' trust." Helene says, "Demon King, thanks for trusting me, but if I kill Draxon and absorb him, do you think I won't kill you too?" Berja asks if he seriously thinks absorbing 2 random Demon Kings would be enough to stand against him. Then he cuts the connection, and it looks like he's getting a message from Gordon. Seems like Draxon was asking for something. But before Gordon can even say what, he freaks out, asking what's with the red hair. The protagonist tells him to just say it already. Gordon explains that obviously Draxon wants a meeting. The protagonist is surprised that Draxon asked for a meeting. Of course he did. He got robbed. Back at the Beast Tower, the prettiest one in this story, our dear Reyna arrives with Ugar, both asking what the problem is. Draxon just tells them to go up, that he'll be waiting for the last person. He's wondering why Berja and Jason are late. If Berja keeps being late, Draxon is going to start suspecting him too. The protagonist spreads his wings and takes off, saying he doesn't have time anymore. Gordon says he can open a portal where he is to take him to the Beast Tower, but he says not to. Gordon asks why, and the protagonist says he'll be there soon. Obviously, he can't just show up by walking in. It looked extremely suspicious for him to come out of the woods, but showing up late is suspicious too. First, he needs to go back to his own tower, and then take a portal from there. But at that speed, it wasn't going to be enough. The guy would doubt him. He'd show up 10 minutes later than he needed to, so he had to fly faster than that. The moment he tries to speed up, his heart gives this weird purple thump. Phoenix wings pop out, and right away, he realizes this looks pretty suspicious. And at the same time, his heart suddenly catches on fire. Not only that, it felt like his heart kind of had a mind of its own. He starts to realize he might be some other kind of creature now, and that's why all those animals were surrounding him. But before he can even figure it out, the wing sort of flaps on its own and launches him forward. Poor guy slammed into his own tower and got totally confused. So yeah, it was fast, but it was kind of hard to control. Then he goes, "Yo Gordon, you ready?" While noticing that after burning through the Phoenix power, he kind of went back to normal. Then he warns, "Alright, we're moving to the Beast Tower immediately." The scene cuts back to Ormoth, where a bunch of adventurers are all blushing, trying to find out if she's Rosal, the one who mastered fire at 5 years old. Seriously, they're acting like starving beggars staring at a McDonald's. Rosal, though, is just telling them to get out of her way. Bunch of trash. Osmond's in the background like, "My god, she insulted me. That's amazing." Meanwhile, her friend asks her to stop insulting people so much because public opinion about mages is already pretty bad. Then Rosal notices something weird. Helene Cardale is joining up too. Everybody knows him, he's the one who killed the Demon King of Lust. Other people go, "Yeah, but he's also the one who failed to kill that king up on Mount Urgist." Helene shows up like, "Hey Rosal, long time no see. I came to lend my strength to this incredible journey." She just ignores him and says he finally took that gross, creepy ring off his finger. Apparently it's because there aren't any elves around. He gets kind of awkward and says they can talk about that later in private. But inside he's already furious. How does that damn heroine even know about that? If she went around telling everyone, his image is going to be ruined. Then she stands up and says, "Whatever, I don't care that you're here. I'm the one who's going to kill the Beast Demon King. So don't get in my way with that filthy hand of yours." He says, "Yes, of course." But he's thinking, "Yeah, right, there's no way I'm the one landing the final blow." The portal opens and Berja shows up with him. Jason too. Draxon comments that both of them made it in time and he'll explain the details once they're inside. The protagonist finally relaxes for a second. He didn't show up late. Up at the top of the tower, Ugar asks, "Draxon, why are you calling everyone to an emergency meeting out of nowhere?" And Jason adds that it looks like the hero who killed the Demon King of Lust is in Ormoth too. Is this about him? Draxon says they already know, so he's just going to be straight with them. One of the 4 people in this room sent a high-ranking demon into his territory, then stole the Phoenix body he was going to absorb. That same bastard caused the death of the second prince, which is what kicked off this whole hero journey in the first place. Garth is like, damn, he had a phoenix hidden away? That's insane. Reina can only think that losing a phoenix you were about to absorb is something only an idiot would do. Meanwhile, Jason is sure the person who triggered this hero journey is trying to kill Draxon, who says that whoever it was is trying to start a continental war. Someone wants him dead, but he's not dying today. And that's why, to kill this traitor, he's gonna buy the key to the black box. The story says that black box is this thing that records every action the Demon King takes. Normally it was used to analyze when invasions happened, so you could improve your tower later. But since all Demon Kings follow the same patterns, they don't really care about the item, especially because it burns an absurd amount of demon points. It also disappears when the towers die, so it's not that useful anyway. Berger knows that if Draxon opens the black box from his tower, he's done for. There's nowhere to hide. Then Draxon says, to open the black box in each tower, I need permission from that tower's Demon King. And obviously everyone here is going to guarantee that, right? Unless that person is the culprit. Berger is furious, and now it's bad because Reina is the first to grant permission, along with Jason. Garth grants his permission immediately too, and the protagonist, without many options, since he can't hesitate, accepts as well. Draxon says everyone approved. Excellent. He'll contact each of them separately with the results, and that ends today's meeting. That key was a single-use item that costs an absurd amount of demon points. And right before a hero journey, it would be insane for Draxon to spend all those points. Every key would put his life, especially his life, at even more risk. But the moment this journey actually ends and things fail, that's when he'll have time to buy each key. And that's why, before that happens, our protagonist has to make sure Draxon dies. The protagonist says he's just going to check the tower and head out now, because they still need to keep planning everything. When he goes down to the first floor, Logar is there all hyped up, holding this huge futuristic cannon, saying it's the magic bomb cannon forged with the flames of the King of Hell, Catapult Mark I. He tells the kid to admire its majestic form. He's never made a masterpiece like this in his life. Good lord, there's a billion words coming out of him. Burjaz like, for the love of God, I told him to build whatever he wanted, but he's not right in the head. And Gordon says, well, he's kind of crazy, but you can't deny the performance probably improved. He just goes, fine, let the dwarf do whatever he wants. Let's see how far this thing goes. Meanwhile, Logar is yelling from far away that they have no idea how hard it's going to be to get past the first floor. Meanwhile, on the second floor, there's Dear Kata, throwing attacks everywhere, trying to kill Burjay, trying to kill Gordon, but he blocks easily and says she really hasn't changed at all. She charges again, saying now it starts for real. She uses the crescent moon variant of the explosive combat technique. It hits the protagonist, breaks apart, and he laughs, saying she really did improve a little. But then he powers up and says she still has a lot to work on. Kata can't believe her technique got countered that easily. A scream echoes from outside the tower, and in the next scene she's completely flattened on the ground. Then he asks Gordon what she's doing on the second floor. Gordon explains that in the fourth room it looks like Princess Ernan is preparing the summoning, so for now it's better to leave it empty. Burge is surprised. Here we are on the fourth floor with all her little critters all excited. Ernan is floating there with a bunch of magic circles above and below her, calling out to the great guardian of water, the one bound blood to blood, soul to soul. A drop falls into the magic circle and she says she forms a contract in the name of Ernan Ryer, and asks it to hear her call. Then the water spirit named Niruniel appears, surprised, saying it's unbelievable that someone talented enough exists to summon her inside a demon's tower. And then she accepts, saying Niruniel, a high-ranking water spirit, recognizes this human, Ernan Rai Roder, as her soulmate. Light sparkles. Ernan floats in the water, looks like she's about to pass out, and falls into little Burge's arms. She looks exhausted and asks what he's doing there, and he says she almost missed something extremely rare. He tells her she did a good job, and she says it was nothing. It's all thanks to the high-quality senile powder he brought. Then out of nowhere she says, I love you, Demon King, but she feels weird and says it wasn't her. Burge just stares, totally thrown off, while she tells him to believe her. Yeah, it was her voice, but she didn't want to say that. Something else said it. The protagonist looks over her shoulder and sees it was the little water spirit, looking embarrassed, saying it slipped out, but she really does love the Demon King. And the little spirit is staring at him, asking when they're going out for a romance date, because her hobby is reading forbidden romance genres. The protagonist is there wondering where the like on this video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers. Activate the cheeky little bell and I'm out.